Yeah, yeah.
The clear tab is just a budget analysis, so it's a clear budget roll up. So that looks at it, that's information on every single department, what budgeted versus actuals were in 24 for the full year, where we are thus far through 2025, and then what the projected budget allocation is for 2026 and how that all translates into the levy as well. On that next tab, I'm on the blue tab now. You see the budget summary, and then these are some property specific examples. So you'll see property impacts of various properties on 0% through 5% levy increases. So just some more information to arm yourself with. In the orange tab, you have everything that is appropriations. This is sometimes a question for what are these dollars? What's the organization? What do they do? So this is a summarized list of everything that's in the budget for appropriations, as well as the individual requests for all of those entities and agencies as well. And then the yellow tab is just a talking point as well, which is just the current layout of the Waseca schematic design that would be certainly relevant throughout the budget setting process. So that is very quick summary for you for reference. As you hear from some of these department heads, and then you will come back at the conclusion after hearing from J&G. That will be a little bit more of what's happening in that order. Questions so far? Anything to clarify before we dive in?
So that, back to the clear tab,
Yep, budget roll.
it doesn't have 24 budget. It just has 24 actions, correct?
The actuals, yeah, that's true.
Okay. And then what we budgeted for 25 in those actions, okay.
So to tie that to a levy figure, if you go to page 31, so really the second to last page, the last page doesn't have any content on it for you. But page 31, where you see grand totals, they'll be reflected in terms of levy. Our budget is updated and inputted is the net effect of expenses to revenues. So if you look at grand total down there, for example, 2025, 1875, 313, that is the actual certified levy for 2025. That would give you a hint then that 18,436, 819 is the current proposed levy in the budget program for 2026, which represents a 2% increase.
Okay.
Good for now? Right, sure.
Morning all. My budget proposal, some of the basics were just the cost of doing business. There was some increases. The other major requests are the routine requests that I have is for squad cars. I've requested 2 squad cars for 2026. And that's to stay up to date on our fleet and to replace aging or squads that are high mileage or having problems and in process costing us money mechanically. So that's a request there. It's just the 2 squad cars for 2026. The other big capital or the other smaller capital item is some funding to update the schoolhouse. We use that as our command center during the county fair. That's our first aid station, our medical station, and cooling station, places to take reports, to interview people, just a go-to place. And right now we got some doors and windows that are leaking, some gaps in the doorways that allow rodents to come and go, and it's also moisture to come in from rain to snow, and it's deteriorating the floor on the by the entryways. And so we just need to stay up to date on those maintenance items on that schoolhouse so it's operational. The other thing with that is the air conditioning unit is not working properly. our electrical is the old, fuses, the screw-in fuses. And, we're blowing fuses from time to time while we're trying to utilize the refrigerator and air conditioning unit and the fans and the electrical in there. So that's, outdated and a hazard and like to replace that. So requesting, up to $50,000 to just, update that, to get that up to in good maintenance condition, so it doesn't deteriorate and cost us more later on. Anyone have questions on the squad car request?
What are your miles running on the squad car that are gonna be?
They will be over 100,000. I don't specifically have the exact miles of the ones that will be replaced. But they're all, both of the two that will be replaced will be over 100.
You get an opportunity to listen to the Cossey expedition, right?
I did. And that's a old unit that's is nearing the end of its life as well. And we actually have it out at demo port as of yesterday. So looking at that, see what the cost of replacement is. For now, replacement for fixing it.
Is that a 2005 or 2006? I don't know.
One of the, yes, one, I'm not positive, but 05 or 06. And that's got over, it's got close to 150,000 on it.
Have you talked to anybody about the schoolhouse and getting bids on any of that?
I did talk to a couple people and they're very busy and the responses I got for those I talked to, they wanted to know what we're looking at and get the green light first before they wasted time in looking at the project. Because they said they're booked out this year and they'll be a project for early next year. But the two local ones I talked to were from town and they said they would definitely be interested in it.
My fucking facilities handle any of that business at the windows and doors?
Possibly. It's certainly something to follow up on. I don't know if you've engaged.
I have.
Conversation yet.
I have not. I was looking for some historical grants, because it is a schoolhouse. And I run into roadblocks with that because of, deck being put on the side of it, or awning being put on it, or, there's some electrical that has been updated on it. And so they talked about it's not historical with those additions that have been made.
Okay. So the minor updates, construction, most certainly. Anything other than low voltage, we can't touch insurance. So unless it's a
No, I understand that.
data lawyer, we don't want to get too creative. If paint, sheet rock, some wood doors, yes, we could certainly do.
I just think kind of, because there'd be more replacement windows that you could slide in. So,
We were looking at replacement windows, but from those I've talked to, the two construction people I've talked with, and I actually reached out to Vircon to see if they could maybe donate some windows to us. And they're odd shaped. So they would have to be custom ordered.
Okay.
So a simple Menards or Lowe's run doesn't seem that it will work. But
because we did have one individual that was really pushing it a couple years back and said he could get us windows.
and that's who I talked with actually this past fair and last year as well. And we just haven't been able to come through with that request.
Chair. I appreciate this conversation and I appreciate you looking locally, but it seems to me that our buildings and grounds should be in on this conversation because they're supposed to be the pros at this kind of stuff. And I don't know, I mean, I know that that's your place out at the fairgrounds. That's where law enforcement camps and that's, but if it's a county owned building, we want buildings and grounds to kind of be leaders on what needs to be done, and they can eyeball some of that stuff for us and know some of the stuff that you as a sheriff are not the subject matter expert. And so let's let them be your subject matter expert for sure, because we do want it to stay in good shape. and be usable.
We will include them. Thank you.
Back to the cars, sure. If I'm looking at this right, we have 150,000 in the,
Yeah, so currently there's $385,000 in change. And we assigned a fund for squad car purchases. And 150 that is slated to be moved over in 2026.
So I'm having a little trouble following along here. We don't. You went over some points, but we don't have anything like that in front of us, do we? Or am I missing something?
No, there is not anything in front of you.
Okay. So you got a 5% increase in your department so far on the preliminary. And of that 5%, then what were some of the items you were just talking about? One of them is the building out there at the fairgrounds. That's unusual.
Mhm.
You know, and then you've got squad cars in there, right?
Correct.
You've got a couple of requests on FTEs with dispatch and stuff. Is any of that in there? Budget,
There aren't currently any FTEs.
anything that was discussed at labor? Is not in.
Nope. No, and that was the takeaway from the labor committee meeting Friday. I mean, the most of these projections were already completed.
Right.
So it stated that I'm not going to change anything budgetarily until the departmental budget presentation, knowing that there are always broad changes between now and what actually gets before you in the middle of September for preliminary levy certification, and between that and the final.
Was there a request for FTEs on the sheriff's office?
At labor.
At least,
This last Friday.
Just
yeah,
on
they were-
dispatch?
I didn't know there was a discussion on dispatch, full-time dispatcher. Discussion on the dispatch lead supervisor, dispatcher 3, some type of leadership position. And then an investigator.
But, guess, I'm interested in the dispatching area and having a lead, just because of how the mechanics and dispatches change over the years. And I don't think the ones that are supervising, at least back in the, Jake could help me out here. I don't know if there's people that are watching over having knowledge like the dispatchers do to be able to be a supervisor. Just because of the change in the dynamics.
So in your packet that I handed out this morning has an explanation to that request for a dispatch leader or dispatcher 3, depending on, had some conversations with Melissa and HR about how to title that position, how to create a job description for that position, and how that will affect other areas of the sheriff's department if that's positions created. And in your package, there's a list of additional responsibilities, because to take a step back, years ago, what we used to have was titled a head dispatcher for a number of years. And that position went away and was never replaced. We move forward to probably 2023, early 2023, Kent Wilkinson from ECN came in and talked about the additional responsibilities with the next gen 911 coming in. The additional responsibilities and expertise that's required to operate all the programs. And there's many of them that are required, and you have to have authorization to be logged on frequently to stay current on them and have a working knowledge of a dispatcher to be efficient in the operations of the dispatch center. And even in past years, we've had a sergeant who has supervised dispatch, but didn't always have the working knowledge of the specific programs either. So we're looking at, creating a dispatcher lead of sorts position to work on that. To have that, and working in the system, staying up to date on the equipment and just troubleshooting things, that happen from day to day. And it's not from month to month or week to week, but you have, glitches that pop up day to day. It's with all the programs that dispatch runs. And so in the packet, there's a list of things, some of the responsibilities that the dispatch lead or supervisor could would be responsible for. Does anyone have any questions on that?
And just to tie into that, just a little bit, I think the lead dispatch is probably more of a necessity when it comes to doing business nowadays than it has been in the past years, just because of the camera system, the GIS system, the 911, and just overall function that happens in mandates that are coming down from the state. I'm just curious what kind of a plan came up for how much would it cost to have lead dispatchers roughly added to their salary?
Sure. I don't know if I'm able to answer that yet, because I don't know what that job description looks like. Yeah, I do know that it is talked about and it was even discussed during negotiations, that position.
I just think we're probably one, maybe two in our region that doesn't have a supervisor that handles all of its facilities. I mean, IT is good, but IT can't be there all the time to help out. And that's that middle person to help begin to different things that go along.
If you look at the packet I handed you at some point, there's a list of the regions or dispatcher Brandy Nelson was able to pull together some data here that show that Waseca County is the only county in our region that doesn't have a lead supervisor, administrator in the dispatch. However you want to title that position, that we're the only county that does not have something like that. You look at counties around us that have multiple layers. Some of them are bigger counties, but they still have multiple layers of lieutenants, administrators, chief dispatchers, multiple working floor sergeants at a time, or not at a time, but multiple sergeants that work. So there's always somebody on duty. Granted, we're not as big as that, but there's still a need for someone to be working to work those fine details.
Question. So right now, supervision of dispatch is under the sergeants,
Yes.
and that change was made when? Recently?
Let's say in the fall of 2023
Okay,
is I would have to think, but don't quote me, but I think it was the fall of 2023 for them to help supervise and manage the employees.
so recently that change, no?
2022.
No, the sergeants haven't been in charge of the dispatchers for quite some time. Dave Melcher, he was involved with them. But he was probably very, I mean, he knew a lot, right?
Yeah.
He was very involved at that point.
Mm-hmm. And I know we've lost a lot of depth of experience.
He was involved, but he was not a dispatcher. He was not able to dispatch. He helps supervise the dispatch center.
Sure.
And so he didn't have the login credentials for all those programs.
Mm-hmm.
And then since that, we've added additional responsibilities and programs with the next gen 911 that came about.
And I understand that the job in dispatch is getting more complex and that we're adding stuff. Yeah.
Can I tie into that? When we had Sergeant Melcher working as a supervisor, there was also the chief deputy and myself kind of tied in as supervisors to the help out. And we kind of all shared the logins to go through everything. It has changed and has evolved, and I knew it was coming in 21, 22.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the projection was that we would probably, if I had stayed longer, we would have been asking for a lead. So I think as the times have evolved, that this is a necessity within dispatch to have a lead of some type. I'd just like to see kind of the figures, you know, I don't know how we put it together when you figure out the FTE or
Do you think
increase of that.
Would it be like a grade, one grade change, you think, or do you think it?
You're asking for stuff that she hasn't had time to analyze yet.
My question is what happens to the sergeants? That's what my head goes.
To go back and just supervise into the patrol.
But it's taking something off their plate.
And their classification.
That changes their classification also.
So the reduction could help increase, or help pay for the
Offset.
dispatch.
Well, potentially, or alleged reductions.
Yes,
We
potentially.
would obviously have to rescore them. We don't know
Right.
for certainty whether there's a reduction or an increase in any of those.
This you've got 150,000 in the vehicles. But there's a transfer in somewhere because there's funds for that, right?
Yes, there is. So it'll be one of the first couple of lines you see. 5910 is the transfer account if you're looking at the budget roll up.
910.
And the total you should see in there is $125,000. So there's $150,000 for the vehicles as mentioned, which is offset in 6670, the expense account. And then I have 175,000 coming in for the remainder of what would be public safety $8. Reduce some of the program as well.
Okay. So that 175 is money we received last year. So
2023, actually, yeah. So we had it budgeted in 2024 last year and then shifted some things around because we had a pretty decent chunk in our 911 funds and some dispatch costs we were incurring. So because historically it's a little more complicated to use those funds, we took advantage of the opportunity when we could. Same with radios. We had $145,000 still in an assigned fund for radios. So that's still hoping to have those expended by the end of this year. So we'll shift monies that were slotted. We were slotted to use public safety $8 for those radios this year. Going to use the 911 or the armor funds and the assigned account instead, and push these $175,000 of public safety $8 to 2026 to buy down that budget.
What's our 911 funds like? What's our balance bracket?
A little more than 300,000 and exact number.
That's okay, just a rough estimate.
It's actually closer to 350, 349, 987, 43. Part of what I asked Judy to do over the last couple of weeks is to identify some of the larger infrastructure items that are happening in IT. And we'll get into that shortly, I'm sure, with her presentation, but every 5 years, essentially, we have a pretty heavy lift with information technology. We did 5 years ago. At that point, it happened to be at the same time we received some CARES dollars, so we utilized essentially all CARES dollars to go towards those infrastructure purchases. So in this instance, as I just mentioned, we have a little bit of a constrained eligibility structure for 911 dollars, how they can be spent. So I asked her to go through and basically identify what's in our infrastructure upgrades is supporting PSAP in some way. And she came up with a decent list as well. So we do plan to continue to spend down those dollars, as I think it's important to show that we're spending down those dollars.
I believe that some of that 911 funding can also be used towards to pay for the dispatch lead position, some wages.
Because some of that 911 funds can go for like the in-house computer systems, the NDCs that we pay fees and such on.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we're going to be spending a good chunk of it between this year and next year.
And then my other question on that would be utilizing these funds to upgrade our I'll call it the monitors, the radio systems in dispatch. Increase to put the the encryption in place. I mean, are those on the radar or not?
Encryption for the radios in place.
Yeah, for dispatch monitors.
We have been trying to utilize that, but we got new monitors 3 years ago,
Maybe two,
2 years ago.
with the right model.
Yeah,
But I'm just saying, so you can put the keys in so we can listen to other counties that are.
I'm not sure on that.
we should be able to utilize those funds for that. When that comes, and that could be coming, but should be coming by the end of the year, so.
Use the funds, absolutely, but as far as that process and upgrade, I'm not.
And I guess that would be my other question for the sheriff is, how we're looking for the encryption for the radios.
Looking at finalizing things, we got some, bids coming in, and then hopefully make a purchase and have them here by the end of the year. Working with Motorola and Gary Anderson.
See, Janesville got a grant for some of their radios. Do you know if they'll be compatible with the new ones that they got system?
Yes, my understanding is they bought the new radios, the N70s, the current ones, the current and most up-to-date ones, and should be compatible. And they went through Motorola,
Thank you.
Gary Anderson,
What was it, Gary? Okay.
I believe so.
We do also have 2 radios currently slotted in the emergency management budget that I asked to just be included in the overall with this for simplification, so.
And I think when it comes to the radios and the armor stuff, the sheriff is kind of in charge of all that countywide, but incorporating radios, I think that just should be a kind of separate one. It's tough and it's expensive and we have to do these upgrades, but it's something that's needed. In order for us just to communicate with agencies that are already encrypted.
These 25 actuals through 6 months.
Those would be as of, so probably the first day of August, so way down to the settlement. August 1st is when I would have rerun that report.
A little over half.
I kind of like to see the numbers with the lead dispatch, if we can figure that out. I'm not too sure about the schoolhouse. I prefer to have staff taken care of and work on the schoolhouse right now. I think if you talk with Brian, we'll probably come up with it.
Yeah, those are both really easy tweaks prior to the preliminary levy certification. I did forward along the sheriff's capital request. That's what's on the screen. So anytime a department head is requesting a change in FTE or kind of a special capital project, they fill out one of these forms. So you have those in your inbox as well, but this is just relevant to the conversation. And I don't know where the labor committee wanted to go with some of the other discussions on Friday. There were a variety of discussions and talking points to request on that particular day. All of those discussion points you have in your email is what I'm saying.
Yeah, just a couple questions for you, Jay.
Yes.
We have MCIT coming in and I see they still are pushing for the patrol. Do you still utilize that within the agency?
We do. Yep, all staff are required to do the patrol training. And I have plans to continue that.
That's a training place.
Yes, that is patrol training in Lexipol with our local policies.
One last thing, I gotta give you, a lot of people I spoke with when you're sitting out at 2 and 3, checking out that area. I had a lot of good compliments on that. In fact, I had one individual that said a car pulled out and almost hit him. The deputy was there and they could stop the car and actually see it happen. Maybe encourage your staff to routinely sit up there every once in a while. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
that's the great compliments for everybody, because they were all worried that they were out to get the speeders, and I said, no, they're sitting there for the stop sign. Great. Sit out there.
Yep. Appreciate hearing the positive comments and at the same time, appreciate hearing the information of where there's problems so that we can get out there and dedicate our staff where it's gonna make the most important impact and save lives and prevent tragedies from happening. So thank you for sharing that information.
Mr. Chair. If you could, James, let Mr. Kolar know, you know, what you're doing out at 2 and 3.
Oh, sure.
So he has an idea what's going on, because we're looking at that intersection all the time, so.
Okay. Yeah, I can communicate with that to him that we were out there. We sat out there for a good week, dedicated hours and every period of the day. So every shift was out there.
Because I think there's a traffic study or some monitoring that's
Yeah.
gonna happen there later this fall, and we wanna get a realistic count, so let's coordinate efforts here so that we get
There-
to look at what to do with that corner.
There's a higher volume of traffic out there than some of our deputies thought there was. So there was a lot of activity out there.
Were you gonna put a summary together for us? Kind of what happened, cars stopped, not stopped?
Yeah, so the each deputy was requested by email to have a form was created for the number of vehicles that went through the intersection and what warnings or citations. That data is being collected and put together by the sergeants.
One other question, this is for Michael and for. If we, I know we have 2 part-time dispatchers,
Yes.
what if we hired 1 full-time instead of 2 part-timers? Would that be sufficient in doing business?
So that was a conversation that was had on recently on Friday about that possibility. So there's some scenarios that came into play is yes, hire another full-time dispatcher, combine one of those and just have 1 part-time dispatcher. One of the problems that you run into is most of your part-time dispatchers have other full-time jobs, which are their priorities, and then their availability is less because they have a full-time job that they're going to, unless you can find someone that's just wants to work part-time, but majority of people, I think today have to work full-time and usually pick up a secondary job and then they're limited in their availability. So that was a concern that we had. Our 2 part-time dispatchers now currently have second jobs. And that limits their availability, which is a concern.
That's what I was thinking, if we just combine those 2 into 1 full-time. And we may have to look at dispatch as a competitive thing, just like deputies or law enforcement, I should say, or we might have to do lateral movement or something like that to find experienced individuals.
And that's, it's something that I think that we need to have the conversation on probably sooner rather than later, because we do have 1 current opening for a full-time dispatcher. I believe we have multiple candidates. They're good candidates. And if there's someone in that pool, it would be nice to capitalize on that, when we can versus.
We utilize that in the law enforcement, or hiring the deputies, there's a lot of, there was at one time to move somebody to a different position. I thought it was it in the union contract?
I don't know if we necessarily have anything in the lateral, but I know recently that I've been working with HR, that when people come from another agency with some years of experience or knowledge, that we've worked with trying to slide them into a appropriate pay range,
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
In our collective bargaining agreements, staff have the first opportunity to apply for those positions when they're open.
Right.
They're posted to that union first before broadening that scope.
So I'm sorry, I've got 1 question that, are our part-time dispatchers scheduled in, or are they fill-ins for vacations or different things? Or do they have a schedule?
We try to put them on a schedule, but they're also asked to work when someone is at training. When someone's at training, calls in sick, or we have extra specialized details where we want additional coverage and dispatch. Like if we run a saturation patrol for traffic, or we have a town celebration in the city of Janesville, and there'll be an influx of people, or city of New Richland. We try to assign those dispatchers at those higher volume call times. But there's times it's not, so then we schedule them, sometimes based on their availability or as needs and dispatch arise. So do they have a set schedule? No. And so they're asked to fill in and work when they're most beneficial to the dispatch center. And sometimes that's limited because of their full-time jobs.
They are regular positions though, so they are like 20 hours a week. They are scheduled. But like as the sheriff said,
It's not a set schedule, it's filling in different times.
Thank you for the numbers on the surrounding counties and what they do. If you had a chance to look at this page, I thought it was very informative that we're the largest county with only one normally staffed, two part of the time. Every county smaller than us, and these counties are significantly smaller than us, only have one. But everybody bigger than us has 2 to 3. When we talked on Friday, this was some of the data that I was asking for to help us understand, like for a county our size, how many people are normal? Well, we kind of fall in that gap where you can see what is above and what is below. Moving forward, part of my question was, I know that there is some trending, some experimenting toward shared PSAPs. And is that something that we need to look at down the road? I got in on a couple of presentations when I was still in EMS about how it works in some places and really works well. Some of that depends on everybody having the right radios and, interoperability, which I know is part of the deal. But I think at this point, we're talking about 2 things here. We're talking about a lead, and we're also talking about possibly an extra dispatcher, full-time dispatcher, whether that displaces one of our part-times or none of our part-times or whatever. I think that's still up in the air. But we are on that breaking point where we need to make sure that we've got that somebody is in there that knows how the system that can fix the glitches, the small glitches, and is the expert on the system enough at the time. And we got to have enough butts in the seat when at the power shift.
Right.
Yeah.
So as Commissioner Malter said, referencing the document that was provided, comparing to other counties, on the very first page, I believe, of the documents I provided to you, also talks about the call volumes in dispatch, the call numbers that have gone up. It's gone up significantly. They continue to go up throughout the years. But it's not always the call volume that goes up. It's the length of time, the state mandates and length of time that our dispatchers are on with each caller. It used to be back in the day where we could take the call, get the information, tell them help us on the way, and hang up. Now our dispatchers are required to stay online while help is responding and getting to this area. If it's a mental health crisis, if it's a burglary, motor vehicle accident, our dispatcher is also responsible for making a phone call to North Ambulance to get the ambulance service coming. It's not pushing the button page and having everybody show up. It's actually making another phone call. And as it was asked last week, well, can't you put them on speakerphone? No, you can't do that. You have to put them on hold and use another phone line to call that ambulance service to get them coming. All at the same time as you're trying to provide, give additional information and keep updating information to responding officers and the ambulance personnel so that they know what they're going to be coming upon or approaching, and whether or not 1 or 2 officers are going to be able to handle it, or one ambulance or multiple ambulances or fire departments that are also being paged out during this time. So our dispatchers are doing an excellent job, but they can only do so much. And they can only be on the phone talking to one person at one time. And so we've had the bare minimum, doing the bare minimum for a long time. They're doing a great job, but we just need to have the help in there so they can continue to provide the service that's expected in Waseca County.
Just adding a couple things. First, I'm not a big advocate of joint dispatch.
Okay,
Um,
I was interested in what you thought.
and I'll voice that pretty loudly. Knowing, working with the history that I have and working with one joint dispatch and listening to the users of that dispatch, oh my gosh, it was, even being brought up would be, it's stones thrown at you.
Because of, they just weren't as, detailed or didn't get the calls going the right direction.
They run it like a business and a number, and out you go. It's just, don't worry about the, the other parts. They look at the life saving and the protecting of life, but there's not a lot of information sharing when it comes to that. Especially if you talk to the fire departments, some of the. That's, I'll.
And I would agree with Commissioner Milbreath as well on that. Historically, I mean, we've been around when Steele County, Rice County consolidated. Other agencies have consolidated, and you lose the passionate personal touch that Waseca County can offer to our citizens, that other counties can offer, because they have employees that know the county, know their citizens, know how the fire departments run, know how the ambulances run. And that creates much more efficiency and a better service to our citizens. And so at this time, I'm not in favor of regionalizing any dispatch with Waseca County.
The other part, if you look at the sheets that they gave you, this, your commissioner sheet, second page, second paragraph on the back page, that's a pretty good outline of what happens in dispatch. And now put an example on, let's say we had our wildland fire here last year.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, the multiple agencies that came in, if you only have one dispatcher in there being able to handle that, your command staff, trying to get that squared away and knowing where everybody is. Sometimes your fire department chiefs are a little more aggressive when they want to have one dispatch for their fire scene, because they're worried about their safety and people being able to hear things. That was a big contingency at one point within the dispatch center years ago, about making sure that they had enough. There was enough dispatchers to handle what the call volume that's coming through.
And to add to Commissioner Milbrath's comment on that situation, or any situation, we have multiple radio frequencies. So the wildland fire that Commissioner Milbrath is talking about, or any scene, you have a fire channel dispatchers try to put an ear to and has to communicate with those agencies. There was over 100 firefighters for that. There's another channel for North Ambulance to communicate on. There's another channel for our law enforcement officers to communicate on. In addition to the multiple 911 lines that are coming in and regular administrative lines that are coming in, and their ears can only go so many directions and listen to that. And you have to have multiple people, and those requests are coming in. The dispatchers still have to act on those requests and then make phone calls or radio communication with other agencies to get those additional resources there. So I just want to piggyback off what Commissioner Milbrath said. So Brad, you can continue with the other comment.
And I think that's something to look at for adding that other dispatcher in that lead. I think that's important for us, because that not always can Jay or Doug be able to help negotiate what actually happens in dispatch, but you have that lead dispatcher that can kind of take roles and plan ahead for some of these scenarios. make these meetings that these other lead dispatchers or supervisor dispatchers are going to make sure that information gets shared back. I'm done now, Doug.
In addition to, as Commissioner Melbrass said, that we try to help out when we can. Our sergeants will try to help out, but if we have a major incident, they have to prioritize where they're going to be. Whether they're gonna sit in dispatch or they're gonna go out on the street and help where they're licensed to be helping. Another prime example here is just, recently we had a stabbing in the city of Waseca. 4 o'clock in the morning. Our lonely dispatcher had to take that call, hear screaming, talk to multiple people, trying to find out where to get help for the victim by calling the ambulance, getting the fire department there, collecting additional information to get the officers there to making sure that they are not going to be sabotaged during this time. We've previously had here, last 6 weeks, we had a sabotage incident up in St. Louis County where there was a fire and the arsonist went and started shooting at the first responders. There's been other situations as well where that happens. So it's very important that our dispatchers are collecting information, getting up-to-date information to keep our responding emergency professionals safe while getting additional help and additional details. So it's important to have more than one person doing that at a time. And these emergencies can arise at any time. 4 o'clock may not be a high volume time, but that's when people need help. They need help at 2 o'clock in the morning when they're intoxicated and they're fighting with their spouse, or when they're intoxicated using drugs and now they have a mental health crisis going on. And our dispatchers have to stay online with them until we can get someone called or someone responding there. So I do feel that these dispatcher requests are a priority for our staff to avoid burnout and to be able to provide the level of service that's we provide in Waseca County and that our citizens deserve.
All right, any other questions for Sheriff? Otherwise, we'll move on to AT. Or do you have?
Yeah, those are, the only other thing I want to put on the record is there was a discussion on a investigator for the sheriff's office. There has also been some discussion on a fraud investigator or a general investigator and how that would look if we would do some of our own fraud investigations. At this point, we only have one investigator who is on call 24/7. Does an excellent job, but his plate is full and he never gets to take a step away from his duties. And so there was a discussion about what would happen with fraud investigation. I think some of that is there's been no movement on that right now. So I'm not asking for the second investigator at this point. We're gonna maneuver things around within our office, but I think in the future, we will need to have a second investigator to have our rotation and be able to give our current investigator an opportunity to step away to avoid burnout. And then also to be able to focus on more investigations or fraud investigations that are, he's been busy with background investigations. And so there's just a lot on his plate. So, but at this time, I'm going to table that request, but just want to make sure that you're aware that that request will be presented again in the future.
Right. Yeah. We got on here pretty quick, so.
Okay. Just a couple things on investigators. What if you manipulated the civil service person, rotated that person into helping with investigations and tried to put some of the paperwork back on the deputies to deliver? Just a thought. I mean,
It's an option.
she came with a lot of great experience from Field College. I think that she would assist very well with the one that we have right in place. It's just finding out how to balance that civil service paperwork and that. So just thought, and then there's a federal, I just heard about it on the news last night, federal grant that's going to be coming out for law enforcement here. I don't think they've signed it yet, but it's coming down after they get back from break.
look at it.
Okay. Right,
Thanks, Jay.
thank you.
Morning, everyone. I handed out to each of you a spreadsheet. This is my detailed spreadsheet that I've used since I started here. It just helps me keep my dollar items in check for each line item that I spend. Granted, not every single thing I purchase is in this, but this is the bulk of the big items that I go through every year, see what's gonna go up. Nothing ever goes down, but except our Verizon bill did a little bit. So, I just wanted to go run through it. Some of it's very self-explanatory, but, starting down on the 6260 line item, that's our professional and technical services. This is all of our network support we get from Streamline, our state router, which is our connection to our internet. And then we also have the EDR endpoint, this, endpoint security with CrowdStrike through the state of Minnesota. Our Civic Plus maintenance for our website, Civic Clerk, our MetroNet connections, fiber loops for the highway, public health, or CSB, and also the fairgrounds. So that's what those items kind of break down to. And there's increases every year, of course, with some of those. And the next line item is software support. Back in the day, what this started out to be was all MCCC support, but it's kind of changed over the years because we're moving less and less under the MCCC software. But the ones that we do support through MCCC is our court services, CSTS, our public health, our Tyler tax, assessment layers, my ISSG information system support group, PHDoc for our public health, and then again, the Tyler user group. So those are the main items. And then the miscellaneous under there, the PBK, that is our county attorney software. The law enforcement is the estimates for a CIS shared consortium. And then also the mobile data computer supports that we have to pay every year on those. And then the Schneider Beacon, that's our GIS and our geo permits. And then also our RT Vision is our time card basic and highway program that we support. Next one is hardware maintenance. That's kind of emergency repairs if we get any. Not a lot, but we try to use some of it. Professional travel, taxable meals, taxable, blah, blah, blah. The rentals and service agreement, that's for our MyTel phone system. Then under office supplies, what that's turned into, what used to be just miscellaneous office supplies for our department. Now we pay for basically everything cross county wide for that. So all the toners, anybody needs a new mouse, a new headset, so that is really adding up because the cost of all those items are adding up. Somebody wants a third monitor, somebody wants this, somebody wants that. So that's kind of how that has grown considerably. And it's not just IT office supplies, it's the county supplies. Somebody wants flash drives or, so that's what that item is. The next page is a big one. It's our software purchases. It's our Tyler Munis, yearly maintenance, our Tyler tax, Tyler cashiering, the Beyond Trust, that's the remote software that we use to connect all the computers in the county from our office. We have our Microsoft M365 yearly renewal, Tyler Assessor Mobile, the Esri, which is our GIS agreement, Trimin fees for the recorder's office, and then our ISC Assurion. That is our device that we share with Dodge County and where all of the recordings from the recorder's office are stored. And then we swap between that county and us. And then the next, the non-capital assets is basically all computer replacements, monitor replacements, printer replacements. We try to do a 4 to 5 to 6, some 6, some we stretch out. So it just depends on, we just go through it every year at this time and say, okay, how's that computer doing? How's this computer doing? Yep, it's been 5 years, it's been 6. Or if they're complaining, you know, hey, mine's really slow, that type of thing. So I'll put it in that list. So that's basically what the 6480 is, all of the hardware replacements yearly. Not yearly, but for the year. So, and then the last one, the big one, that's the capital assets, which has really increased a lot lately, but this is our infrastructure, facility switches that we have in every building. We do those on a 5, 6 to 7 year replacement. We have our ESXs, what that is, that's our 3 servers that run about 40 virtual machines on these systems across, and those were replaced in 2020 along with the CARES dollars, and same with our SAN, that's our storage, where all the storage goes, for all the data, and then a Veeam backup replacement is in the works for the next year. Like I said, this isn't every single thing, but it's the big things that come out of IT.
On our router that we use from the state, that we utilize that to help the city of Waseca as well, right?
Correct. The city, we give the city internet and portals and CIS information. We extend that to them fiber, yes.
Are we charged on our end for that use?
No, there's always been a shared agreement of. So if we want to start charging, we can. We never have.
And my other question, when you purchase things for other agencies, and I see you have a list here, how do you track that, like for supply under the 6401? You track that when it goes to, when you have to purchase things for other departments?
Mm-mm.
So 3 years ago, we started centralizing a lot of these things you see on the screen to IT. That was purposeful because it was harder to keep track of it countywide, and there was some redundancy happening across departments because everybody was ordering toner, for example, or paper, or what have you. So a lot of these things in Judy's budget weren't there a few years ago, and we inflated the IT budget. It looked like a win to some of the other departments initially, but it's a lot easier to manage and maintain and keep track of when it's all running through IT. So probably doesn't have a detailed list necessarily of here are the 5 headsets or whatever that were distributed, but maybe you do, I don't know. But it's still a lot easier to centrally budget it here and know that it isn't also happening every other department across the county.
So it should be a little better to manage inventory of the stuff on here.
Yeah, all of the inventory for those things you're seeing up there is through IT.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if they need the cable, flash drive, HDMI, whatever, they're knocking on or ringing the doorbell.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
My question would be, moving forward, data storage.
Mhm.
I know that storing data and securing it is complicated for government entities. I also, as I just mentioned ago, know that there are a lot of cloud-based applications that do some of that.
Mhm.
Are we considering, are we looking at those things? I mean, I know there's 2, I stopped at a lot of booths. And as soon as they heard the size of the county, it's like, yeah, we don't do that, which is fine. It's an answer I expect. But I also know that some of the things, it doesn't matter how big or small you are, and maybe there's not cost savings, but security wise, making things more redundant and less likely that fire is going to like make a mess of everything. That's where I'm going with that.
Mhm. And yeah, and as applications come available to the cloud, we are moving those to the cloud. So like all the Tyler apps, a lot of the ones underneath the, like the county attorneys, that one is in the cloud. PH Doc, the public health big database, that is not in the cloud yet, so they haven't moved that route. So as the vendor moves, then we're moving to the cloud with them. Yes.
Okay.
So otherwise, the storage that we have is mostly, how do I say? It's not the application so much or that data, it's the data of what everyone types up and the storage and the documents and, you know, the bills, the invoices, you know, I know we're moving less and less by having it online, but people are still into paper and still into storing documents and that type of thing. So there's a lot of files out there from past years and current years of, you know,
Sure.
Yeah,
data.
so SAN is network, storage area network, so your ability to connect your server sites, all of your data that's passing through them, or all of the different point machines happening in the county. So we have like shared drives on our computer that go to a central repository of information. So we'll never get away completely from
Yeah.
physical on-site storage because some of it is necessary just to process our applications on our computer. So there's various kinds and levels of storage, as Judy's talked about. Well, you know, it's really the thumb drive. I mean, storage file to get from here to here. It's the more RAM type storage to actually process the data. To be able to open the application on your computer, you have to have so much processing power to be able to do so.
And then also with that Veeam backup, we're right now we have, an application that we're dumping stuff to the cloud and it's a certain amount of terabytes every time. But now we're adding this Veeam backup, which is also another redundant backup. I'm a person that wants a backup of a backup of a backup kind of person, and that's, they always say 3. And so that's kind of what our goal is to, so in case we do get hit, if and when, like, we have it somewhere. It might not be that exact minute backup, but it's relatively recent. Hopefully, yes, relatively recent. Not
I
like,
was sure you were thinking of these things. I just wanted to hear somebody say that. Yeah.
yeah,
How's our security? Are we tight on our security end of it? Are we looking at anything new?
well, we had our audit last fall, and we're working on those items now, prioritizing what we need to work on first and pushing it down. And so we're all trying to do that together a little bit each day, because we just don't have time to devote it, all of the staff to work on that, you know? So, and then Chris gets overloaded. So we're trying to come up with a plan of, okay, what security items are we working on this week? Let's get those done. Then what's next in our list? So we have a roadmap right now that we got from our audit that we had. And so that is telling us what security items to work on.
And you can go back and look and see how many people are trying to get into the system. can't you?
Yeah.
What do you think on an average day, how many people try to tie into that?
I can't even,
Tens of thousands.
yeah.
Tens of thousands, okay.
They hit-
And that's what I think the public needs to know that, you know, we're protecting our citizens and
So
everything.
that goes back to that SAN technology too. So typically what that looks like from an external agent is DDoS, which is a distributed denial of service. So essentially they try to overwhelm your network by constantly flooding it with internet traffic, which comes to a standstill and basically cripples your ability to do anything. And at one point in time, it was over 100,000 attacks a day over the globe that did so hit our network. And we're not a very big entity, but it's constantly, and we're not unique in that either in terms of those pressures. I had a presentation from MCIT a week ago about phishing attempts, ransom attempts, and some recent examples of counties or cities or entities that have been plagued by this. So it's only getting more and more
Mhm.
intense every single year.
We're just trying to add layers and layers and layers. So, you know, when the state comes down and says, hey, this product that we use called CrowdStrike, it's our endpoint detection product. If we went out as a county and tried to buy that product, we wouldn't be able to afford it. But the state is doing it with the cities, the counties, the school districts. So then we can get the cost reduced, cheaper for us.
And part of our BCA audit and compliance at this point is literally paying someone to try to break our system. So every year, we're effectively paying individuals to try to do that penetration testing, try to get through, try to cripple us in some fashion.
I mean, are we, you know, is there a hole out there? Oh, yeah, I'm sure. You know, but we're trying our best to look at these, and that's why we did the security audit. And that was part of a BCA requirement also.
But as is told by every agency and entity and subject matter expert, the biggest risk is you.
Yes, the weakest link is the user.
Probably us, sitting right here.
It is.
Don't click the link.
Don't click the link. And we just saw just a perfect example I sent out yesterday of planning and zoning phishing email that went out to a citizen that looked legit, and how they do it, and I have no clue. It's just, they skimmed everything off of the Word packet and filled it out and sent it out. Yeah, read your news.
Yeah, every day we get usually notice or there's emails being sent out from a county email address, or a city email address that isn't from that individual. Circumvented and captured at least that one account with the ability to send out emails on behalf of that account.
Lots of counties are getting, yeah. That's on would be me.
So, you had a transfer in of 600,000.
Yeah, so you look at IT and say, oh, cool, you had a 3.37%, I think it was, reduction, but yeah, there's a $600,000 transfer in assumed in this budget, which is the last remaining dollars of our CARES, half of it. And the other half of assumed interest earnings for this year that will be transferred into next.
So 300,000 is interest, 300,000 is CARES money. And that's the rest of the CARES money.
About as 5 years.
$300,000 interest. Okay.
At another work session in the future, I mean, we'll part on we'll transfer in amounts or other supplementary funds that are being used in the budget narrative overall. You'll see more details.
All right, any other questions for Judy or Michael on the IT budget? Thank you, Judy.
Thanks.
Thanks for keeping us all safe from the boogeyman.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
The start talking about transfer ins of that. Did we have a transfer in to the sheriff's?
Yeah, so yeah, there was two, total of 325,000, 150 and 175.
Okay, but that was that was a account designated for vehicles. Well, the 150 was.
Yes, there weren't any additional monies in terms of general fund reserves or other special revenue funds to buy down that budget.
Okay, that was a fund, a sheriff.
But the 175 was public safety $8,
Yes.
and then 150 was the assigned vehicle fund.
Yeah.
You know,
So it was, yeah, no interest or CARES or other outside.
the police state aid amount has not yet been finalized. Checked again last week, but it wasn't finalized as of yet. It'll hover between 145 and 155. That's where it's been the last few years. So it's on the low end of 145 right now. Assuming we're right in there. That's about it. But otherwise, just referencing the binder you have in front of you for a couple of minutes, walking through high level detail of our forecast documents, updated listing or schedule for what you can expect to see. As of right now, I don't necessarily need the August 12th workshop. There are certainly things we can do. But we were able to move up the sheriff's office and IT, who were originally slotted for August 12th to today because we had moved up the August 5th session, which was Public Works, to July 15th. So following that normal shift, I'm not taking it off the schedule as of now, but just so you don't look at that and say, well, there's nothing scheduled, it's because there's nothing scheduled. Been moving people up before I don't want to move public health up yet because as much time as necessary for them to get finalized numbers is helpful to make sure you have the most up-to-date information. If all those happen to come through, great. But in their budget outlook right now, there are still some estimated and assumed numbers in there. I won't read all of this, but I trust that you had the opportunity to peruse some of my summary from where we're at in 2025 versus going into 2026. Certainly some strong themes of fiscal uncertainty at both the state and federal level and how those may drive our costs at the local level. Personally, from the county standpoint, seeing a lot of healthcare costs rising that are able to be absorbed by the county this year, though I felt necessary to put in here as we continue to see these pressures increase, that at some point these are going to be extended back or shifted to employees in future years because there just isn't really an alternative to that. That would be in terms of premiums in a monthly basis. Notes on recruitment and retention, just thinking through succession planning like many counties and cities are, as we anticipate a lot of departure of institutional knowledge from our agencies over the next 5 years, creeping into 2030. We're actually lower than a lot of our counterparts in terms of retirement age eligible individuals between now and then. Some of that is because of the board's strategic approach to early retirement incentive planning over the last 5 years. So that's positive. And then looking at some of the preliminary budget information, levy information of how this is all made up. You should have some charts in front of you that capture the last a little more than 20 years of information of where the budget and levy have gone. And just highlighting again the good work that's been done by you folks over the last 6 years in terms of only a 1.62% on average levy increase over the last 6 years, which assumes a 2% increase for 2026, which is what these forecast is based upon as well. So I will not necessarily call the 2% my recommendation, but that's what's talk more on that, of course, as we move forward. We'll talk a little bit about fund balance in terms of general fund. This will be another talking point and perhaps an argument for leaving August 12th on your schedule, because this can be kind of a rabbit hole in and of itself to actually do some due diligence and understand what drives this. But for now, I at least wanted to get you some information for 22, 23, and what is drafted as proposed for 2024 is not yet finalized as of yet, right? Back, okay. Got it. So, our external auditors, Baker Tilly, were able to at least monitor this up and provide that draft for fund balance. And you can see some incremental growth from 2023 to 2024. And again, we'll talk about the relationship with why I think that a little higher than that. Investments, I don't need to touch on that much at this point in time. We'll get into that some more as well. Capital improvement, just giving you a flavor of what has been completed in 2024, what's currently completed in 2025, and what we still anticipate to happen in 2025. And of course, I'm looking forward to 2026, which is driving really that Fund 11 allocation under the budget. County Justice Center, I mentioned you have some current renderings and models in the back of your folder there for as of yesterday, that updated conversation. Personnel metrics over the last few years that Melissa tracks and puts together, just so you can see some shifts. The only thing I'd really immediately point out is the reduction you see in land and water resources is the strategic approach which we took to GIS and have been working on a flex contract basis with Schneider Corp to maintain that, and thus far it's been working well. And that shift went over to P&Z, but this is not a filled position. This was a lateral movement in a sense with Tina moving from the community development coordinator. So the position is there, just not filled. We have no immediate intention to fill it, but I'm going to point that out because it does currently impact the budget. So when we talk about other FTE adds or shifts, there's a potential opportunity to beg and borrow there. Getting us, of course, to the 2026 preliminary budget entries themselves and the foundation for what this whole structure is built on as we go forward. Some more detailed notes for some of the more significant increases, even if just in terms of percentages, they might not be significant dollars, but as math happens, the percentages can look more exciting than the actual dollar change. So just providing some additional definition and due diligence there as needed. So, yeah.
Go back to the FTEs there,
Sure.
that contract with Schneider, I know it's been going well. Is it a cost neutral to contract with them versus an FTE, or is it benefit to
It's
us?
about half the cost of the FTE.
Okay,
And I'm not ready to tell you that it is a permanent solution, but as of now, it is a good solution, and a good alternative. There was a lot of cleanup on a project basis from several departments that we're seeing an advantage on. That may change as systems get more complicated. There may be a heavier demand in the future to have a physical presence, but for right now it's working well. But yeah, good question. It's about half the cost of what the FTE. Budget summary, you have a little larger printout of this in your packet as well too. You can't read the microscopic text up there. But all of that just is a quick capture of how we get down to that 2% levy increase. If there's green annotated text, that is indicating that there are some level of reserves being used, and we'll break that down in more detail into the future as well. But ultimately, a quick snapshot of how we get to 2. And appropriations, you have a section in your binders. Yeah, go ahead.
if you go to the county extension.
Yeah.
That's 61.77%, isn't right? Is it?
No, it's not. You're right. It looks like there's a weird formula thing happening right there. No, there was very minimal changes in county extension. Significant changes last year, as you recall. We vetted that conversation out quite a bit, but yeah, good catch there. Take a look at that one and fix that one. I know that number is right there, so.
Okay.
Question. Appropriations, you got all that information in your pack. And just trying to wrap up in the next couple of minutes, so going through some of this, and I'll have plenty of time to come back and digest further. Estimated property tax impacts, and talk a little bit about what those shifts may do, or what they look like at the per property basis, per class basis, based upon what's happening in our net tax capacity value from one year to the next. We actually had a pretty significant increase, 7.11% from 2025 to 2026. Preliminary number, but still a pretty significant preliminary number, more than twice the amount of last year. So that is good in terms of providing some tax relief to some some more common or standardized properties. And, you see, as I always provide you with various price points and breakpoints at a median residential homestead, kind of a median value versus a high value residential homestead. What does a 2% levy increase mean in their respective ones? And those highlighted areas are kind of that recommended range of landing spot for levy is. We'll delve into further. Per acre basis, and it's always an interesting talking point as well. On average, we're at 11.5, assumed to be 11.9 for 2026. What all those levy breakpoints are in real dollars and in terms of percentage increase as well too, just for that check and reference point from one year to the next as well. And then, as I mentioned, I added a couple of those charts to the back of that first tab, that red tab for you. And some of that is just to show the relationship of and in some ways maybe dispelling the notion of who's carrying the burden, or we live in a very egg heavy county, and the operations are often thought that, I should say the decisions that are made are often thought to be borne on the backs of egg more often than not, which isn't necessarily wrong, but it's just helpful to have a quick snapshot of where we've shifted over the last few years. And prior to 2023, you can see that it was actually non-egg properties that bore the majority of the burden, and it really shifted from 53 to 47%, almost the complete opposite to 53 and 57% post 2023. That's where that trend is still kind of continuing. Immediate questions?
I'd be interested in things in a longer term, look at those. Just out of curiosity. Yeah, those particularly.
That's all the time we have right now.
All right, we will adjourn the work session and try to get back here in 5 minutes for the work.
That's why
Yeah, correct. Yeah, thank you. Oh, yeah, it's like. it has to be-
We're very excited. Help us.
Yeah.
So we can post us, but we're glad you do. Obviously. You want to show off.
It's like. I was six.
Somebody was on Yes. Thank you. I'm gonna go sit down. Guys, sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah. We're gonna need to sign what's the social security. Light on the. My bulb's really. Come figure out what. That's really good. Some service keeps back.
Yeah.
That's a challenge.
Yeah.
Sorry for this tomorrow.
All right.
You guys can just look at work for you guys.
Okay, we'll start out, with, a new staff, Sarah, you've got new staff here to, introduce.
Cheers.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to bring to you Katie Reyes, who has been hired about a month and a half ago as our environmental health specialist. Very pleased to have her. She's located locally and has already used her connections to really develop good relationships and has hit the ground running. So very happy to have Katie on board. Thank you.
You're here and would you like to say anything or introduce yourself in any way, your background or?
Born and raised in Janesville, so been there, lived there most of my life. I went away for a while for college. I have, most of my background is food manufacturing, food safety. I did a couple of odd things here and there, including being a preschool teacher 1 year, but most of my stuff is food safety background.
Thank you and welcome to.
Thank you.
All right, then we'll move into presentations. We've got a couple of representatives here today that we'd like to give the opportunity to speak to us. Tom, would you like to go first?
Well, we could both go. I mean, we're a team effort here.
Yeah, it's up to you. If you want to do that, that'd be great. Yeah.
I'll share the microphone with my fellow representative Keith Allen. I think all of you know me and most everybody knows me. Representative Tom Sexton for 19D, which includes the city of Waseca. Keith has the northern half of Waseca County. And of course, Peggy Bennett has the southern half of Waseca County. But I didn't realize Keith was coming today, so we might as well take care of it. So one of the things I want to stop by and just encourage everybody to let us know, I guess I'll call it the law of unintended consequences. For all the good things we tried to do up in the legislature, sometimes we miss something. So now is really the great time for us to meet with you, get together, figure out what we can do to improve. And if there's other legislation, we've got time to work with our researchers, the revisor's office to work on that. So we're ready to go when we go back into session in February. As you know, we've had a lot of things happen. Things have kind of calmed down, and we're looking forward to getting back to work. So, Keith, anything that I missed?
No, not really. It's the big thing that a lot of us are tasked with doing when we get back out into our communities is reaching out and trying to talk with not only community, the civic leaders, but community members to try to find out where we can build better policy and do a more effective job of making sure the rubber actually meets the road and does what it's supposed to do. I come from a background of agriculture and farming, and a lot of hard work gets put in before you can actually get a crop to yield. And that's the way a lot of us approach looking at and working with policy, is trying to find out where we can find some commonality and some things that we can work forward with that help make things better and easier for people in our community, especially around affordable housing, specifically with retirees and seniors, and trying to get new families moving into our communities to help to bolster our schools. These are all common things that we're all focused on and trying to work through. I know in my travels, I've been meeting with school boards to try to find out where there's things that we can do better, and specifically with counties, because it's, there's a lot of good policy and a lot of things that do come out of counties that we do try to get implemented up on the capital side. One of the big things I've been listening from people is specifically around housing and zoning. That's a common thing that we're hearing from. I know some of my counterparts up at the Capitol have been talking very aggressively about it, but making sure there's still a local control that's involved with it, as we've seen with a lot of these solar farms, the wind farms that are going in, how it gets kicked up to the PUC, and all of a sudden it comes out of the hands of commissioners and comes out of the hands of local townships, which I served on. We got to be able to find a balance to this in order to be able to allow people our local people to still have a voice on some of these critical things. And I think on zoning, this is one of those things we really got to address very quickly in order to be able to help things out. So I'm all ears. My door, along with Tom's door, is always open, and consider me and Tom as a resource. We're here as part of your team. So,
Couple things on taxes. We have committees, and then we go on the legislative floor, which quite frankly, most everything is shaped and baked prior to that point. But we do a lot of work in the background, even before it hits committee. And a lot of the work we did is preserving local government aid for greater Minnesota counties and things, so that you aren't forced to raise taxes because we sold you short, as well as the county aid. And I think you're seeing that just from what I saw from the previous meeting as that was wrapping up. But continue to tell us, we can't take our eye off the ball, so to speak, on some of those things. So we're focused on that to keep our taxes as low as we can while still delivering the services that we need. And again, local control is so important to all of us in greater Minnesota and representing greater Minnesota. Some of what Keith was talking about in the housing bill specifically, there were some things to force some zoning that were much more aggressive. We really got that watered down, and we added a sunset clause. So if this idea doesn't work, it's going to sunset anyway. So that's the kind of feedback we need so that we can do our jobs better on your behalf. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Keith and Tom, for taking the time to be here. Okay. We will now ask for public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? Sure. Go ahead if you'd like to give us your name and address.
Jesse Peters, and I'm a resident of Waseca County. My concerns are your folks' thought on what you're planning to do out at Courthouse Park. I've heard a lot of scuttle about it. I haven't heard anything more than this much positive about it. I'm wondering who came up with the brilliant idea and what your plans really are. And are you really 100% sure that this is what you want to do?
Imagine you're referring to
the band shell, yes.
Thanks for your comment, and that's all going into consideration. The comments we're getting. All right, we would move on to our presentations. We have a representative from MCIT here today, Gerd Claybaugh, to give us a presentation on their. Sure.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
Good.
Appreciate the opportunity to take some of your time and just talk a little bit about Minnesota County's Intergovernmental Trust and the work that we're doing on your behalf. As was mentioned, I'm Gerd Claybaugh, I'm Executive Director of MCIT. And again, appreciate the opportunity to talk with you briefly this morning. I have a hard copy of what you're looking at on the screen. So if anybody would like that, I'm kind of old school myself, just get the paper between my fingers. But if you'd like a hard copy, I'm happy to give you a copy of that. But we'll roll on and let me know. I think one of the things we try to do every 2 years is get out and speak with our members, just as a reminder of who we are, the work that we do, the partnership that we have. And so that's part of my agenda today. So I appreciate your making the time available. for us. So I think you can think of NCIT as your insurer, and you often do. We don't think of ourselves as an insurer. We're really a risk. We're created under Minnesota state law by counties, for counties, and for other small local government entities that are affiliated with counties. We were created in 1970. Compensation access in the private market was very difficult for local governments. In fact, there was no workers' compensation coverage available at that time. And so several counties in the state got together and said, how do we solve this problem, and created NCIT as a result of that. And from that time, we've grown to 81 counties and the 400 affiliated local government entities. And we've added additional coverages beyond workers' compensation to include property, liability, just all sorts of additional coverages. So we're here to serve you. We're really here to serve your needs. We grew out of the need that counties had 46 years ago, and we'd still probably be doing that work today. So again, a little bit more about us. Of course, we're a public entity, so we were created as a joint powers entity back at that time. And so we're again serving your needs. Our board members are peers of yours. You get an opportunity to elect that board when their seats come available on a regular basis. And so those individuals really know your work because they sit in your seats. They're doing the work that you're doing every day here in Waseca County. We're a government entity, so we're not for profit. And I think that's critically important. We're really working to recover those costs that you transfer to the pool, workers' compensation, property, liability, and the rest. So any additional excess resources that we've got, our board ensures that those are returned to you. And I think the board's been proud over 30 plus years to return those dividends to you. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later in my presentation. We have a partnership with you. We do what we can to really serve your needs, your interests. We're trying to follow what is an ever-changing set of demands that are being placed on counties today and do the best we can to keep up with those changing realities. And that partnership means, though, that there's also things you can do to contribute a lot to the value of that partnership. And I want to talk a little bit about those things today. At the end of the day, there's one takeaway you get from my presentation. I want you to know that our interests as a pool are aligned with your interests. It doesn't mean we're always going to agree, but we're doing what we can to provide support, services, and outreach to advance the work that you do every day. 81 counties, I think I mentioned that, are in the pool. About 400 other small local government entities are in our pool. And again, part of the partnership is also ensuring that we're providing services to you and you're taking full advantage of those services. And I want to just highlight a few of those things along the way this morning. As I mentioned, I know that you are constantly being challenged with meeting the needs of your local community every day. And that means you're thinking differently about services that you're providing. As you make decisions, particularly those decisions that are different, that are changing from patterns from what you've done in the past, be sure to consider how our coverage applies in those particular circumstances. Reach out to our risk management consultants. Let us know what's going on. We can help evaluate our coverage. It helps us also know where those areas are that we need to consider making changes in our coverage to respond to those new demands. We know you're also doing a lot of contracting along the way, and there's liability and risks that comes along with contracting. And while we're not your local attorney, you're not getting legal advice from us, we can help review agreements for liabilities and risks and give you some risk management strategies in return for that, so we can be helpful in that way. I know you're facing cyber security challenges. We're seeing those. You see those in the popular press even today for local governments. We're providing services, support, training along the way. So we want you to take advantage of those particular resources. Safety in the workplace is a big deal. I'm sure you've got a safety committee. We've got a safety consultant on our staff, a loss control consultant that could be an asset, a resource for for you. And so I want to encourage you to tap into that. Take advantage of our training. A lot of our training is made available to our members at no or reduced cost. So take full advantage of that, and I'm sure you do. Again, as I mentioned, our interests are aligned with yours, and we want to do everything we can to really make your operations successful along the way. So give us a call. We're here to help. I'm not going to read the handout, but I'm going to hit some highlights along the way, and so I'm going to jump to page 2. One of the things we do in providing coverage to you, I'm not going to refer to as insurance, but it's coverage that we provide to help manage your risks. We buy insurance also, and that's called reinsurance. And so we go to national, sometimes international markets to buy that reinsurance. Now, this provides a financial backstop in the case where we have very large risks. We can share those risks with reinsurance companies across the country and do that as a way, if you have a very large building collapse, a fire, you have a very large workers' compensation claim, we can share those costs with our reinsurers to make sure that our pool is financially secure and solid, and yet take care of those needs as quickly as we can. But that reinsurance comes with significant costs, and you'll see, and I think it's this chart you're looking at here, on what's happening with our reinsurance trends over the last 5 years. That blue line on the top is what's happening with our property reinsurance over the last 5 years, and you can see that line is increasing at a pretty steady rate. And it comes really off the heels of the pandemic, when we've seen labor costs go up, supply costs go up. In some cases, supplies just have not been available, and that's been a cost driver as well. The costs of repair and replacement have just been going up at a very steady rate. And so the blue line there, the 2025 number, is what we're paying for property reinsurance for 2025. We haven't bid that yet for 2026, but we do rebid that property reinsurance every year to make sure that we're getting the best possible deal. Our board has recently made some adjustments in our own retention so that we can keep our reinsurance costs under control. But that also shifts the burden somewhat onto us as a staff and our members who are members of the pool, in order to do what we can to make sure our buildings are safe and secure, they're well maintained, so that we can avoid substantial losses along the way. The brown line underneath is our liability coverage. And again, I know you and your law enforcement staff, for example, are seeing challenges in the law enforcement area every day, and they're on the front lines dealing with what are some difficult situations. And so that's been a cost driver, not just in Minnesota, but really across the country. And so that's been an ongoing challenge. And again, your board has taken steps to try to responsibly manage the cost of that reinsurance, but it does put a greater burden on us to be sure that we're communicating with members on those safety strategies, those cost avoidance strategies, those claims avoidance strategies, so we can keep our own total costs under control. On the bottom of page 2, just wanted to highlight quickly as well. Every year we go out and we reevaluate, either by inspections that we do on property. We do that through a private vendor, an expert vendor that we use, or we look at just costs increase related to inflation for construction type costs. So in that bottom section on the bottom of page 2, you'll see our total insured value. You can scroll down to the bottom if you can control that. Yeah, so that chart on the bottom gives you kind of a sense, and you'll see that line arcing up a little bit in 2025. This is our total insured value, the value of buildings and property that we have in the pool. In 2025, it's $9.2 billion, and you can see that rate of increase is arcing up a little more. And again, coming off the heels of the pandemic, with labor supply costs increasing, materials and supplies increasing, all of that. I know you're seeing that in your own construction costs, I'm sure, as you build roads and build buildings and repair things. All of those things are affecting our cost of repair and replacement. Page 3, just talk a little bit about our rates. our rates are really overseen by our actuary. Our board sets those rates every year. And I think you can think of our rates and our contribution levels very similar to the process you go through when you take property values, apply a levy to that. And this is the property, charges that you have that go on to your constituents. So we have exposures that we manage. One of those is property value, that $9.2 billion. That's an exposure that we manage, for example, on property. And we take our rates, which here on this top page 3 are the blue bars here. This is what's happened year over year in terms of changes in our rates. We apply those rates to that insured value. And that's how we generally come up with the contribution costs for the coverage that we charge you. So you can see that blue bar. We've had some really favorable experience in recent times on property and liability. But in 2025, we've seen a pretty substantial increase. Our property and casualty line of coverage includes property, vehicles, cybersecurity is in that bucket as well. Quite a few different lines of coverage are in that bucket. And so we saw 11.2% last year. In 2026, that rate of increase will be 0 for that blue bar. So that's good news. But again, just like you're seeing valuations increase, we also see that total insured value increase as well. So that will be a cost driver for our contributions in future years. Similarly, with workers' compensation, the exposure there we measure by salaries, and obviously the risk that's borne in law enforcement, for example, in public works, will be different than for a clerical employee. So those rates also different by employee type. Our aggregate rate of increase in 2026 will be 0, but some of those individual occupational rates will change. So again, I think that's good news. Part of what's driving some workers' comp increases for 2026, again, are back to labor costs. Labor costs continue to chug along at, I think, generally higher than inflation rates. We also have something called a mod factor, and if you flip over to page 4, there's a little bit of a description of your mod rate, the mod factor there. And so for 2025, this current year, you're at a very favorable mod factor. That's a 3-year rolling calculation. So in some cases, if you have a large claim because you got maybe an injured worker, for example, maybe it was a catastrophic loss, that will affect that mod rate. And that's a rolling 3-year average. So that's another factor that we use in calculating our workers' compensation contribution levels. I want to end here just by talking a little bit about claims, and this again is on page 4. The chart on the right, on the upper right of page 4 will give you some kind of sense about the claims that we see on average per year. And this is a 5-year snapshot, so 2020 to 2024. You'll see, for example, in that upper section is a workers' compensation section. You'll see in sheriff and jail. So in that department, for example, on an annual average basis in that period, we saw 661 claims with an average amount paid of about $5,500. If you drop to the lower section, that property liability section, property casualty liability section, you'll see autos. We insure 30,000 vehicles across the state of Minnesota. You'll see 1,000 claims on average for automobiles, which are averaging just under $5,000 per claim in that 5-year period. If you jump down to law enforcement, you see many, many fewer claims, but the average amount per claim is quite a bit higher. So we're managing all of that variability in property casualty, particularly. We see annual variability that moves more than 100% in terms of our paid claims every year. So there's a lot of variation in those resources, but we're here really to absorb those shocks, to manage them effectively, to provide services and support to you all as you work hard also to help manage those shocks and those challenges that you're dealing with. The bottom section of 4 here, and I'll just end with this, is we want to just encourage you to continue to make access to all the resources that we have. We've got a small staff of risk management consultants Joe Saminsky, for example, is yours. Alethea Sheridan is your loss control consultant. Those folks try to get out as much as they can to work with your safety committees. They're certainly available by phone for any consultation, answering any questions that you might have about coverage or strategies on how to avoid the risks that you're facing along the way. Take full advantage of our programs and services. Our employee assistance program is free to you. It's included in your membership. And I think you and your staff make great use of that. We have law enforcement programs helping to support improvements in practice there. We've got a learning community of law enforcement across the state. So I want to encourage you to take advantage of that. A workers' injury hotline, for example. So as you get injured, as you have employees who are injured, there's a way for us to triage that, give them services that they need. So I'll stop with that. A lot of information. Appreciate the time that you've provided this morning and would be happy to answer questions that you have.
Any questions for Gerd here? Yeah, go ahead.
Not necessarily a question, but just a thanks. I've taken advantage of a number of the trainings. We did a great 4-part series on open meeting. I think we need to look at that again in light of new legislation that changed things on the 1st of August, but really helped in a lot of areas, not just here on this board, but with joint powers we work with. So thank you for helping us do it right in the first place so we can not run afoul.
Appreciate that feedback. Yeah, thank you. And we try to make those things available also to commissioners as well. So I'm glad you've had an opportunity to take advantage of that. And again, we try to keep the cost down. A lot of times it's free. We've gone to more webinars, to reduce the cost of travel.
Which has been great.
Yeah. And it's just in time. So we can do that very quickly, put information out. There's a couple of webinars actually that we've got coming up later this fall. One in particular I might mention is just on how our rates are calculated. So that might be good for staff, but others certainly yourselves, anybody who's interested in that. So get a little kind of a look under the hood in terms of how the actuaries set their rates and how we make those calculations. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Okay, we will move on to youth mental health navigator final report. Give me that. Are you giving that, Michael?
Here, one that's, let's maybe skip that one for now.
Okay. We'll move on to round 9 and round 10 border to border grants. Bill. Good to see you.
Thank you very much for letting me get on your agenda this morning. This won't take too long. I just want to give everybody kind of an update on where we're at with the broadband projects. If you remember, we applied for 2 different grants, one in round 9 states broadband grant program, one in round 10. The blue map there, that's the round 9. The white map is round 10. That was 1 year and then the next year kind of a thing. When I go through this, I'm kind of going to mash them together because from our perspective, it's just one big project. The round 10 is really just an extension of round 9. So you want to move over to the next one. So when I talked about the process for this is, the mainline cable is the first step. That's what parallels the roads. The main line, actually, I think I finished yesterday. So that part is done for both projects. There are 683 potential customers within the grant area. We got 544 of them to give us property agreements so we could bring a service connection to their homes. If you recall, we don't require that the customer actually take service from us. We just need permission from them to bring the cable to the side of their house. If they don't want service, then we just coil it up and bury it at the side, and hopefully we can sell it to them later, or the next owner will want it and it's there and it's available for them, and there's no additional cost at that point. Of the 544 customers that have given us property agreements, we have plowed service drops of 448 of them, and we're continuing to work on that part of it. One of the steps in this is the electronics hut that was going to be placed in kind of the middle of that blue area. That's set to be placed at the end of September. So splicers have been kind of working on and off on the project, getting the main line, some of the service drops stitched together. The big step will be is once we get that hut installed, that's spliced up, and then we're gonna be in homes hooking customers up. So there's no reason why we won't be running hard doing the installs by the end of the year. Things are moving along pretty well despite the weather we've had, so. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Things are going well. Yeah, any questions on that? I mean, it's pretty short on the project. I mean, a lot of details, but the lights at the end of the tunnel.
The 448 is actual commitments for your service.
It's been plowed. No. It's, so the 544 people that have said, yes, you can bring a service drop to our tools. 448 of those have been done. It's through the side of the house.
Okay.
We won't actually go in and start selling it until we get the network up and running. And then we'll come back and then try and get people to actually sign up for services and things like that. So I don't have a number where that'll be. I would assume by the end of the first 18 months, will be around 50% will take in the service. And it goes, that's just what we've seen before.
Sure. Some of them have to
So
follow through with the service they have.
Yep, they're on contracts and things like that, and let them run out and, but yeah.
Right, okay.
So that's this project. The next slide, just a quick update on BevCom itself. We had a little bit of a change in our ownership structure. In July 1st, we put into place an employee stock ownership plan at ESOP. So as of July 1, 49% of the company is owned by the employees. My family still owns 51% of it. We were looking to do something where we could keep the company's focus on being kind of a local company. We wanted a way to reward the people that are actually making things happen and making us successful. So kind of our new slogan now is local people, local owners, and we're locally connected. So I've moved into a little different role as executive chair. The new CEO is Jake Anderson. He's a lifelong resident of Faribault County. He's been with the company 27 years. Great guy. He and I have been friends since we were little kids, so it's kind of staying in the family anyways. But yeah. Well, that's my update. It's short and sweet. Are there any questions, concerns?
Bill, on round 10, you were thinking you had all the property agreements? I talked with one resident and they weren't sure if they had the property agreement yet.
So we would have sent them out. Certainly not everybody completed them or sent them back to us. They can call us at any time and we'll send somebody out with one.
I can talk to them too sometime and just.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, I mean, when this project's all done, the people, if they don't have drops, they can call us and we'll come out and we'll still do it.
Still drop it.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't, hey, when this project's done, we're done kind of a thing. We're going to continue to try and get everybody that we can. And even those we haven't built to, we're going to keep trying to figure out how do we get them to sign up kind of a thing. So.
But now's the time when all the shovels are there.
Yeah, it's easier now when there's more people there, but I mean, we'll still come back and do it. So.
Well, hurry up and get that hut done.
It's on order. It's on order. So end of September, it should hit place.
My wife will get anxious, so.
I am jealous. I am jealous.
With that, I'll just say I haven't heard any negative comments while working with Waseca County from any of our people. They have really enjoyed the relationship and working with all the staff and everybody here. So thank you. Appreciate that.
And I do have to compliment Midwest on the trenching it in.
Yeah.
Because I had a couple different people. When it was wet, they were trenching it in and they were really worried about the dirt piles, the tracks. And I said, just give them a little bit of time. And they came back and they smoothed everything out. And it looks really nice. Yeah, so.
Yeah, and as people do have
People are
concerns, have them call us and we'll make sure that it gets fixed. Yeah.
Yeah, when you see them up there with the rakes and leveling off and throwing some grass on top, that was impressive, so.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll, Move on to the approval of agenda. With any additions or changes to the agenda, Commissioner Carlson.
No, sir, Mr. Chair.
There is a letter for board members who are willing to sign to support, in support of our state broadband development office that expresses our support of building more fiber. This is to help give them local, for them to show local support as they have discussions at the federal level on the BEAD program and how that's developing and redeveloping. So.
Do you want to add that to a discussion?
I can, yes.
In action?
That would be fine.
So H,
Yes.
broadband support.
Broadband support letter. Yes.
Anything else? Commissioner Hargit?
No, sir.
Commissioner Milbrook?
No, sir.
Anything from administration?
Yes, sir.
I would look for a motion to approve the agenda with that addition.
I'll move it, Harvey.
For a second?
Second part, Kraus, yeah.
Second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consent agenda, approval of bills, solid waste collection and transportation licenses, approval of residential tax abatement first half payments, and environmental health specialist out-of-state travel. Is there any discussion to that? Otherwise, I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
I would second.
Moved by Commissioner Milbrook, second by Commissioner Malter to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action items, SWDC cooperative agreement.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is the annual update on the cooperative agreement for the Still Waseca Drug Court with the financial support from the judicial district. It was a little bit delayed this time, as Commissioners likely are aware. We usually retroactive this back to July 1st of this year, and then it goes to June 30th next year. Little delay because we did receive a slight increase from the original amount they were going to give us. I think it was about $7,000 that they allocated for our drug court. So they amended the contract before we brought it here. So that's why there was a slight delay. So we would ask for approval and signature of the fiscal year 26 Still Waseca Drug Court Cooperative Agreement.
I'll make that motion.
You have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Milbrook, second by Commissioner Malter to accept the cooperative agreement. That will run through June 30th of 26 for $177,479. Discussion. And that amount.
That covers primarily our drug court coordinator, Nicole Grams. That covers her salary and benefits. Also covers some additional costs of the program, such as drug testing costs, travel, training, any additional type of services through the drug court. Just very little after that business.
Okay. All right. There is no other questions. I will ask the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And close, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Contract 1 for 812509 Bridge 7598 replacement. Jim. Morning.
Yeah, so this is a
proposed contract to replace Bridge 7598, which carries County State Aid Highway 6 over the Louisville River down north of Richland. Bridge 7598 was built in 1940 as a steel beam span, widened in 84 with a timber deck. Bridge is supported on timber abutments and timber piling. Timber piling are the problem. They're severely deteriorated to the point that a load rating analysis earlier this past winter resulted in restricting that bridge down to an 8-ton maximum load limit. Once that occurred, we started project development a little sooner than we were anticipating. I think we had this bridge kind of in like for 27 or 2028, I think. But with that analysis and restriction, moved it up into this year's program. Plans were prepared by Stonebrook Engineering for a concrete slab span bridge, which will be Bridge 81535. We went through all the permitting process with DNR, Corps of Engineers, Waseca. That's been obtained. Local bridge replacement program grant funds from the state have been awarded for 50% of the bridge costs. We advertised in accordance with law and opened bids on July 24th. We received 3 bids. Structural Specialties Incorporated is the low responsible bidder with a bid amount of $590,040.85, 12% under our engineer's estimate. We recommend award of contract 812509 to Structural Specialties.
Have a motion for, I'll make the motion. I'll second that. By Rosie. Moved by Commissioner Hargis, second by Commissioner Crossley to accept the low bid for the bridge replacement from Structural Specialties Incorporated. Is there any discussion?
There is. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay. Where are we finding the 300,000 from?
The county state highway funds, construction funds.
So
for the balance,
50% is local.
50% of the bridge items
Yes.
are paid for with a state grant.
Yep.
So county state aid will pay for remaining 50% of the bridge items, and then the non-bridge items, which are kind of our paving and approach and erosion control, traffic control stuff. And removing the existing bridge are all construction county state aid highway dollars.
So this is happening this year and it was slated for 2 years out. Is there a stranglehold on anything that we're going to put now on a back burner?
No. If you recall previous discussions, once we had to restrict this bridge, we were talking about funding this bridge completely with county state aid highway dollars. So the 20 million in bridge bonding that the legislature approved here is $250,000 is some of that. So no reason not to build it, I guess.
Correct. We were able to
Tap into that.
tap into that because of the project.
And like I said, we were going to fund this bridge completely with our Waseca County construction dollars, but that legislative action, we were able to tap into those dollars, and those dollars had previously run on last October. So.
Okay. Is there dates on this deadline to get this done?
I think I have November 1st as a deadline. Okay. Talking with Structural Specialties, they're midway through another bridge right now. So kind of looking at early mid-September to start on this one.
And if everything went,
They should be able to do
good. I mean, is it on the project?
Probably a month and a half.
So
They'll be full. Yep, it'll be real close to that date if they start in September.
Thanks, Jim, for expediting this. I know it hasn't on your plate. Shut down.
It's a significant restriction, so and where it's located, we definitely wanted to.
Yeah.
And we had the means to get it done this year, so.
We have drivers on one side of the bridge that have land on the other side that have to go around the block this fall, but
Yep.
they're just happy it's getting done. So it won't be an issue next year.
Yeah, we'll support it.
Yeah, we did have to purchase a small one right away from the folks on the north side, and that went very well. The south side, we were good.
Okay.
I haven't asked the question yet, have I?
No.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Jim, now we will move transfer of funds.
Resolution C.
I'm really jumping. I checked off the wrong one here. That's the problem. Resolution 2025-34 MnDOT agreement number 1060646.
Thank you. So since you just awarded a contract, this is the resolution to execute the grant agreement for this bridge structure and obtain the $246,000 and change, as reimbursement of certified expenses as we build the project. Again, it's just the $246,000, it covers the 50% of the grant eligible bid items, which is normal on a bridge located on County State Aid Highway. The grant or the resolution would, allow board chair and the county administrator to execute the grant, and then it's the county paying for any expenses that go public, which is also very normal. And I'd recommend approval of adoption of the resolution.
I would look for a motion.
Don't move by Crozy.
Second by Milbrat.
Seconded to adopt resolution 2025-34. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Right, next Jim.
Say, Jim, if you get a chance, can you go from Highway 14 on County Road 2, from the bridge crossing, go east and look at the two different colors of white paint they put down? The one on the south side looks like it's not.
It might not be painted yet.
It was painted. They were working on yellow, so just take a look at it and see if there's, I just noticed that there's a difference.
Gotcha. Thank you.
We have one other question.
So that's your turn. What's the status of nine?
Tomorrow, JJD will move in and work on fixing that culvert. You figure about a day and a half, should be able to reopen the road as with the gravel surface, and then you and the brothers will patch it probably next week when they mobilizing to start paving Woodville's project.
Okay, cool. That the same size culvert going back in?
It's the same culvert going back in.
It's the same one?
Yep, it's in good condition, just was never tied.
Okay.
So we're gonna pull it out, reset it, tie it together, backfill it.
And you're certain that it's in decent shape, so.
Yeah, no, that's what I was gonna ask too. Is it that old of a culvert then?
I don't know the age off the top of my head, but I mean, looking in it, everything looked good. And then we've done this a number of times here. Salvage and reinstall the same concrete pipe. That's the beauty of concrete pipe. That's the very long.
So why wasn't it tied together?
It was normal practice back when it's, I think it was like probably early 90s when they really started fully tying all the pipe. So anything prior to that had no ties or maybe just end sections tied.
Yeah, it's used to just let them in there, never tied.
And then just freestyle over time, they start migrating apart.
Right, just shit. We've had several of those.
Yes, yeah, I mean, you guys, the county has a lot of concrete pipe, which is awesome, just it's not good tied together. Oh, we're working. Yep, slowly but surely, as we unfortunately find holes in the road, that's
What do they think of?
but it was tough to find a contractor. Everybody's super busy and the weather is put everybody behind. JD was able to answer the call timely, as timely as I could get.
Is there a way to tie those together before this happens? Is there a way to go through the culvert and use like cables and hooks on each end?
That's
not an option.
No. Yeah. I mean, if they're big enough, if they're big enough piping, you can get through them physically, you could tie it in the inside, just the tie bars could hang debris. So we have issue there. So preference is to tie them on the outside, which is easy when it's new pipe going in.
Right. Well, it's all apart.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Letter D, child safety seat distribution award. So,
Commissioners, please ignore the table I just sent you. I did my spelling so. I am here today to request your acceptance of this child safety seat distribution award from the Minnesota Office of Traffic Safety. This year, their award is 6 child safety seats. Last year, we were asking for 2. Just as a reminder, we do employ 3 staff members certified to install these seats. Most of our child safety seats are Blue Plus and South Country Health Alliance issuance through their medical assistance. Through medical assistance for families. There are still a number of families that do not have the benefit of medical assistance at the time that they need the seat. So sometimes it's just a delay in the application process. Sometimes it's because of other issues. So we do get these grant seats from the state of Minnesota directly for those cases where folks who are in poverty and they are asked to be people of need but don't have access to other resources. Funding is kind of fun for this one. It is primarily from the collection of fines from individuals cited for illegal or unsafe transport. So it's kind of a nice way to tie things back together. And typically about 1,000 seats are distributed across the state each round. I don't know because of the where we're at in the process exactly how many this round we're giving out. This allocation is 2 convertible seats, 2 combination seats, and 2 high back booster seats. I checked our numbers this morning. We have in Waseca County distributed 48 seats yet currently this year. And last year at this time, we were at 62. Our end was 114 seats. So it's up over the years, fluctuates some from year to year, but we used to give out around 30 a year. So we're 30 to 40, we're at a much higher rate than we used to be. Questions or concerns? Otherwise, I would ask that you accept the seats from the Office of Traffic Safety.
used to be 30
to 40,
and now it's over 100.
yes.
So is that because of people knowing about it more, or are we that many more people that have income issues?
It's probably, I don't know, but I would say it's likely a combination. We do have quite a number of folks who need assistance in our county, and that number has not shrunk over the years, to my knowledge. Is that correct? Oh, Dee's got a thought on it.
I do have a thought. I think that within the last 5 years too, the rules have changed about how long kids need to stay in the seat. And they need to stay in the seat much longer now, like until 8 or 10.
Yeah.
And so that's part of that too, is you have to, holy moly, there's seats everywhere just to have 2 grandchildren. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And they have to stay in them for a long, long time.
Yes, you got several, you got to go with it.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, and I know well that I think South Country has allowed some, it used to be just 1 per enrollment. And they do now allow for 2, depending on how long they've been enrolled and what the situations are, because of that exact fact. If you must get a seat for a very small child and they're required to be in a child seat, safety seat much longer, they'll need to transition to a different model.
Sure.
So, yeah, there's I think a lot of things into that, and awareness is certainly one of them as well. So I think there's more grandparents aware that they should also be seating children in seats instead of just buckling them in. But
So the rest of the seats throughout the year are being paid through South Country Health Alliance.
yep, and Blue Plus, yep, both, yep. All of those are, and we bill medical assistance for the installation itself.
Do you work with Shelley Bedklin out of the South Central?
Yes. Yeah. Yep, the ladies do communicate back and forth, and I know we've done some, when the six generic grant seats don't last us the year, so generally we Shelley.
She got quite a shipment.
Yeah.
So.
Just a little harder because of the transportation issue for us to get there when we have someone sitting in our house who really shouldn't leave without the seat. So try and take care of it locally.
Okay, there's no other questions. I look for a motion to accept these 6 seats from Minnesota Office of Traffic Safety.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Mulder, second by Commissioner Hargit to accept 6 seats. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sarah. Transfer of funds, ditch loan payback. 6.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're requesting to transfer $60,709.47 from the ditch fund, Fund 41, into the general fund 01 to pay back loans given to 4 individual ditch improvement projects. Typically, we pay back loans once a year or annually at the end of the year, but we would like to pay back some of these loans as we receive the first or second half assessments so that we can keep up on them and try and make the applicable payments, both to the interest and the principal. So as we collect the money, would like to pay it back to where it was borrowed from. So those county ditches, the improvements are in County Ditch 19, 21, 31, and 48. As you know, they're all on multi-year assessments for the improvement projects. They were funded by proceeds from the general fund, and we would ask that you approve the transfer.
Good. Got a motion to so move by Carlson. Okay.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to allow the transfer of these dollars from the ditch fund 41 to general fund. Any other discussion? No. Okay.
You want me to? I can come
Well,
out.
I wasn't sure if that was, yeah. Okay, if not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Riparian fund recommendation contracts.
Yes. We have 2 contracts that the SWCD board approved for riparian fund cover crop contracts. Contract our RF 2025-1 and RF 2025-2. If you pick through it, on the contracts that were attached, the section numbers on the SWCD contracts were incorrect. They are correct in your board agenda packet. They're in sections 26 and 27 of Blooming Grove and sections 8, 9, and 16 of Janesville Township for a total of $6,264 based off a base rate of $40 per acre. And all of these cover crop projects are adjacent to public waters or public water courses. And staff would recommend the approval of the soil and water contracts for 2025-1 and 2025-2.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second.
By Commissioner Melba, second by Commissioner Walter to pay these riparian dollars. Did we do anything as far as, capping the dollars spent for this?
At some point in time, we will have to have a board work session or a session on the riparian fund this spring. As you probably know, Soil and Water updated their guidance policy for the riparian fund for what qualify projects to be brought forward through the Soil and Water Board. And now it will be up to you as a board to decide what limitations that you would like to look at in terms of their policy. We have talked with Soil and Water saying that in terms of riparian funds for cover crop contracts, that we're trying to limit that to about $25,000 per year, as we've turned part of the riparian fund into a budgetary item where we're using some of that yearly allocation to offset some department wages and some other things. So, in the budget for 2025 and going forward into 2026, we're trying to budget those figures, and so we're trying in a certain sense to cap cover crop projects, because we have no idea how many they're going to bring forward. Some years it is $10,000, and last year it was approaching $30,000, and so we just want to have some sort of a ceiling to it, and not that you can approve dollars above and beyond that, but we would just like to have some sort of a budgetary number to work towards.
So you say they changed their policy. But we're the ones that okay the spending of those dollars.
The policy that they have is a policy, an internal policy between staff and their board to say, this is what qualifies for us as a SWCD board to bring forward to the Board of Commissioners. So it's kind of a initial checklist policy for SWCD before it comes to.
So the people are aware, just because it qualifies under SWCD doesn't necessarily mean it qualifies. That's it. To me, it seems like that policies should be created together. Both boards, so we understand what they're accepting and if it's acceptable to us.
And SWCD makes it known to all of the applicants that, these contracts and these decisions are in the end approved by the Board of Commissioners. So just because they go through the board, the Soil and Water Board, does not mean, that they are promised or that they are approved through the company. It is an internal document for SWCD, just so that their staff knows what would qualify as a riparian fund project before it is brought to me to present to you.
And do you think it's really similar to one watershed, one plan qualifications?
There are some things that are similar, there are some things that are different.
I would imagine that distance from public water, so that's different than one versus the other.
Not a ton, because priority is still given to how close you are to water. So,
yeah,
I think our concern is what bucket are you pulling out of first?
right. And that's what if these people that we got in front of us here today would qualify under one watershed, one plan, then that's the one bucket we can go to first.
But that's a SWCD decision, what bucket they pull out of, not ours.
But we should know that.
We should know that, and we help drive that decision on theirs by putting a policy of our own in place saying, here's the scope of what we're gonna say goes here and what we're gonna use for other things. So we do need to add policy on top of what they have.
Yeah, and we need to know what one watershed, one
One plan has.
plan has for application.
In this circumstance, one watershed, one plan, the cover crop, no-till, strip-till policy is that if a individual has a certain amount of experience in cover crops, that at some point in time, they will not qualify for reimbursement through one watershed, one plan after they reach a certain point in their career of utilizing cover crops. And so there is some flexibility in the riparian fund if you as the board choose to honor some of these cover crop projects, even though they have 2 or 3 or 4 years of cover crop experience. Where, this particular contract does not qualify through one watershed, one plan because this producer has too many years of cover crop experience. So it excludes him from one watershed, one plan. We obviously, that is the first question out of my mouth when they come with a contract does this fit into one watershed and plans? Or there are some other soil health grants that they have as well. And so, we always do ask them, and I know that they're cognizant of it and they try, if, this fits into a different funding source to try and utilize that. Riparian fund, has some flexibility in it. And, until we put limitations in policy for experience or things like that, it is open at this point to do what the board wishes to see done.
All right, any other questions? I will ask the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All same side.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Great. Also, what do you guys come on court?
Good, we spent most of last week out there just removing down trees and snag trees that were posing a danger over the trail. And I believe they have all the trails open for use.
Yeah.
So, but there's a significant amount of damage right there. We thank you for providing us with the backhoe or the tool for pulling those trees down out of the other, the widow makers and things like that, because what we accomplished in a week's time last year would have took their entire crew the rest of the year.
Right.
If someone didn't get hurt doing it.
Yeah.
It's a great benefit to have some tools available for us to use and spread throughout the county, and help other departments. But it's coming along. It's, messy, but they got a lot of it cleaned up and they've been working some long hours out there too. So it is,
Well, thanks for gently doing that. That helped.
All right, we'll move on to G. Radiological Emergency Preparedness Grant.
I'll take this one, Mr. Chair. Thank you. This is a biennial award and a $6,000 award. In total, $3,000 per year. As you may be aware, the state of Minnesota has 2 different nuclear facilities, and with the northeast corner of Waseca County is in what's called the ingestion path for the facility. So basically, the impetus of this grant is to fund emergency preparedness planning in a failure scenario. So since that incident at 3 Mile Island in 1978, this award has been in existence, and the whole premise of it is for local preparedness, revising grants, and some full-scale scenarios that FEMA administers, as well as our regional emergency management planning group. So just ultimately looking for approval of the award, and we'll sign off and send back to the state so we get access to that money.
You make that motion for approval.
Second. By Commissioner Member and second by Commissioner Harder to. So it's not really accepting the grant, you're applying for it.
That's true. It's approval to apply, but it's awarded once per cent.
Is there any other discussion?
They just talked about this yesterday on the two nuclear plants we have, Monticello and Prairie Island, that now everyone within a 10-mile radius will get that warning if there's any leakage or anything that's amiss. Or a cyber attack or culvert, right?
Yeah, so Prairie Island is in Red Wing, and the ingestion pathway caps at 50 miles, and we're right at the corner of that 50-mile radius. So that's why we're still included in this process. But nowhere near that for the Monticello one.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, then, the added item, broadband support letter. Let me take that.
Steve, you wanna, kind of give some context for this and?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. A few days ago, we received a request from the Office of Broadband Development to a number of different individuals across the state of Minnesota to write a letter to support BEAD funding for fast, reliable broadband in Waseca County. Translated, what that really means is the Office of Broadband Development for Minnesota is trying to ensure that the federal monies that are available in BEAD, to the degree that we can, to use that money for fiber to the premise. Right now, under the new leadership of President Trump, the FCC is much more friendly with fixed wireless. In other words, wireless technologies, satellites. But in the state of Minnesota, we've really advocated for fixed wireless, just exactly as you see with BevCon. So, yeah. So what we're really trying to do is make sure that Waseca, because we've expanded all of our programs through wireless, through fiber, we want to make sure that the degree that we can, make sure that the BEAD funds, we won't have a lot of BEAD eligible connections, but to the degree that we can use the monies there for continuing our fiber optic cables to as many places as we can. I'll just add this little detail. If you go to the Minnesota map and you look at what locations in the state of Minnesota are eligible for BEAD funding, it's about 100,000 positions. In Waseca County, it's 17 positions. So this letter will help us. It won't harm us, but it could help us to get a further expansion of fiber, particularly to the northern townships of Waseca County, because basically the southern half is already getting fiber. So that's what the purpose of this letter is. We don't know if it'll help, but it won't hurt. And we're hopeful that by sending a letter like this with your names, that it sends a clear message to the decision makers at St. Paul and in Washington that we're fiber friendly here in Waseca. Thanks.
So you're looking for individual signatures. It's not a board. So you got all the names on there.
It can go either way.
I was just gonna have you all sign it. Yeah. I have a copy of it for you, so.
We chatted informally with the Office of Broadband, and they said whatever Waseca County would like, but they said probably more signatures are better.
Well, we've done really good with sending letters and signatures and all that so far. Had great success.
And you know, the Office of Broadband, they said, boy, we love it. Because they know that Waseca's on their radar. They know what we've been doing, and they know that the board, you have been unconditionally supportive. So that's why they turned to Waseca County to get those signatures, because they know us and they like what you've been doing.
Right, so I guess I would look for a motion to, go ahead and for all of us to sign this letter.
I would make that motion.
Second,
There is.
moving second, is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Steve.
All right, we need a break, or should we muscle through it?
Depends on how long Michael's gonna talk.
Yeah,
How much?
we'll limit him.
I'll be fast. Really, my update, so to speak, is more so questioning back to you. You got kind of a first taste of some of our budget outlook this morning. Are there specific things or specific ways you want to see that information from me that I can bring back over the course of the next month and a half? That egg to non-egg scenario was an example of something I've heard. What else is a better way for you to consume the information or interpret and apply the information? If I'm not looking for more work, but I'm happy to do more work if it's helpful. That's really the only question I wanted to pose back. As you think over the last few years, even, it's like, it really be nice to see this way or that.
I think, when we get in, what I'm really concerned about is, you know, we've been able to, over the last 4 or 5 years, keep the levy extremely low. Mainly through efficiencies, obviously, ARPA helped and some of this COVID helped, but we also made quite a few efficiencies. Now, this year, you know, we're like in the IT department, we used up the rest of the CARES money. We're starting to run out of some of these monies that we've been helping to keep our levy in check.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest concern coming into this budget is where we're at there, and obviously it'll help if we ever get our audit back, you know, to see where we landed in 24. But I guess that's kind of along with all the other moving parts that we have, that's a concern going forward. How much money are we using to, whether it's whatever funds it's coming out of, that lead check.
And it's a good concern. I spent a little bit of time in that preamble section at the beginning, spelling some of that out, that at a certain point, you get right-sized, and if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. As a result, there's not really a standing still. So some of you have, in conversations, have said, let's be a little bit more broadly minded in terms of what are the pressures, not just in 26, but through the state's outlying biennium. What are we expecting through 2029? And what is that supposed or implied gap we have to bridge between now and then? As the pressures are going to ramp up even more significantly. We avoided the largest cost implications from a legislative standpoint this year it was also pretty clear that it was a deferral to future years. So we didn't avoid it, we just missed it for the time being. Unless something very monolithic changes or shifts at the state level, those costs are coming. I think some of what we will see in reduced revenues won't hit us as hard from a federal standpoint because a lot of them will be passed through, meaning that the work simply may not get done. So that isn't necessarily a better outcome, but it's not so much we're doing the work and just not getting reimbursed for it. It's just the work may not happen. It'll be a combination of both, but I think on the federal side, it'll be less output and less services overall, rather than just less reimbursement, accessible funding. So it's not an easy not to unravel by any means, which is why I stated it the way I did this morning, that 2% is what it is built on. It's not necessarily what I'm calling a recommendation, but that is where it's at. And understanding how it got there is important going forward as well.
Question, if we look at, like, we're working on 26, but 27, 28, kind of follows our union contracts that we have in place.
Right.
Is there a way to kind of project, knowing what our increases are going to be, at least on full-time individuals, and maybe kind of put in numbers to see where we sit, that no one's already. I mean, there's going to be some changes, but if we have kind of an idea where we're going to be sitting in 28.
Yeah, so the salary and benefits piece is probably the easiest, honestly. And a lot of that is because we have 4 contracts that are all in the same 3-year term. And as best we know, those aren't changing. The small, like the sheriff's presentation this morning, there's gonna be those small adjustments here and there. Hey, we need a lead in this area. It's going to impact this person by 1 grade. Those aren't material changes that are gonna blow up a budget. So yeah, we can absolutely get the majority of our budget outlook projected out a couple of years. And even a couple more years, just based upon trends and averages that we would normally see in a collective bargaining agreement space. Some of the other cost pressures are a little bit more murky, but not to say that we can't project them out, because we pretty well can. When we get into capital infrastructure, pretty good idea of what's coming down the road and which projects are more identified as options and which ones are this is happening and how are we going to pay for it. For the last few years, we've been able to take a fairly a la carte approach to CIP, which is nice, and we've been able to escalate a lot of future pressures up to within the last 4 or 5 year frame.
August 12th session. Right now, there's nothing labeled there. Do you think some of these discussions, along with the Justice Center, going to be a topic to get together?
Yep.
That obviously is, I mean, when we sit here and talk about all this, that's a huge implication.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And Justice Center is going to park on just for a second at the end of this update, but that plan, the strategic design concept itself, but also the direction has changed pretty dramatically over the last couple of weeks. So absolutely will warrant some additional conversation and discussion. As we know, the size ultimately drives the cost, and the cost ultimately drives the decision. So there has to be that intuitive approach and how anything gets done if it gets done. Which is why I said I don't want to dismiss the 12th as an option because there's plenty of things to go through. But
Yeah, I think we should plan on keeping that on our radars and we gotta keep, talking about this Justice Center, whether it's how we move forward or if we move forward.
Woodseth is more than happy to be involved in the conversation if you think you need them in that space. And you mentioned that as much yesterday, and I told him I don't really know if we're ready for even this conversation yet or not. And they kind of are taking marching orders from us and staff and putting it together in a conceptual form and have been doing just fine in doing so, but they can only answer so much. We have enough information to, within a relatively close perspective, to say, if it's this big, here's how much it costs. And here's how much the contingency and the soft costs are on top of that.
Any other comments on that topic?
On that topic.
I'd just like to get more information where we're at, what we're sitting. I think it'd be good, I mean, we've been, you guys been we've been kicking this around for a year. We need to.
And, you know, and it was, how deep do you want to get here? It's so frustrating because we have, when we started first of the year, we were talking the Justice Center, and we were talking, then it moved into updating our sheriff's building. And then we find out that, you know, so it grew there. So then we find out that it isn't worth spending that kind of money in that building, you know, so now we're gonna put them into the new building. Square footage went from what we anticipated at 31,000 square feet to 47,000 square feet in about 2 weeks. And now
We're back down to 41.
And now we've got to sit and screw and try to get it back down to where it needs to be. And the whole time, the costs keep going up. So what we thought we were gonna be able to do a project for continues to grow. And I think we just gotta get together and hammer out what is a want, what is a need. Nobody's gonna be perfect in predicting 30 years down the road what we need for space. We gotta take care of today with a little foresight into what could possibly happen. But we can't overbuild it.
And I've had conversations with several in the past weeks of constituents talking about this. They're concerned about the cost, but they're concerned about cutting us short too. We want to make sure that we're able to utilize the space that we have. So if we build it, it's got to be utilized some to a point. It can't be just sitting empty saying, no, this is just going to wait for future expansion.
Right.
But they want to make sure that we have enough to do business today and next year, not 30 years down, because
You can't predict that.
no, but they're concerned that make sure that we don't cut ourselves short.
I would say the biggest challenge there is right sizing it, not so much. We don't need extra square footage. What we need is we need this board and our staff to be thoughtful about efficiencies in the building so that every part of the building is used, well used, that it works, that things are next to each other that need to be next to each other, that we find, and you don't necessarily do that with more space. I agree, we don't want space sitting empty, but we do need space when we need space. And so we have to take into account all of those things. I'd be anxious to have that discussion as a board. I'm having sat through and looked at the plans a number of times and see how they're coming along. They are coming along, and once again, the ratchet is out, and Waseca is doing their job of looking at where we can, cut some space out. But each time the model changes, they have to do that again. And so I'm impatient, but at the same time, I want us to make sure we've got it right.
So anticipating some of that again, in your yellow tab, you have the most recent design concepts. So just, if you have a moment to familiarize yourselves with those for next week, that would be great.
So what time next week, Mr. Carroll?
8 o'clock.
I think that's what's in my calendar.
Yeah.
You can, by default, they're all at 8 o'clock. So if you want to deviate from that, certainly within the prerogative.
Yeah, let's leave it at 8 o'clock.
Okay. That.
Well, do you have any more administration? Or is it?
Yeah.
Is it addressing
Budget, please.
Okay.
No,
Oh,
I had a conversation with Representative Sexton, and that's why he showed up this morning. He wants to know what we have are looking at for capital investments. So they can try and get it in the bonding bill. He wants our input on that. I'm not sure how much state land we have in this county. I know there's a lot up north, and we heard those counties last year talking about that, but they are going to put tax back on that. And have the state.
Pay tax.
Yes,
Instead of pill.
yes.
Huh.
That's what he said it could look like.
Wow.
And then he wants to know when we get farther in the budget, what the down at the local level here, what it's looking like from what we didn't get from the state. He wants to know what our concerns and causes are. So I thought maybe he would bring a little bit of that up this morning, but I know that he thought he was very special for that.
sure. Great, that's helpful.
One more question for Mike. The sheriff and IT left already, but I was wondering, did they ever get the camera fixed on the radio tower yet?
I will check.
Is that?
It's been a while.
It's in the corner.
It does, but you can move it all around, but I know it got damaged. I thought it was earlier this year.
Okay, we'll check.
Okay, was there anything? Are you done with your administrative update?
As long as you don't have anything else back from me in terms of how else do you want to see the information or any other specific examples or scenarios. That's obviously not just a one-time ask, but.
Right, I think it'll be good if we can all go through that you handed out a little more thorough and then things that come into my head too.
Okay, good. Next Tuesday, I'll bring updated levy bonding scenarios as well, relative to some of the sizes and price points we're talking about.
So would you be doing the multi-year levy?
Oh, yeah, I'll look over a 3-year period for the life of the bonds relative to.
Well, I mean, we were looking at a 1-year levy, 26, but what does it look like? 26 through 30?
Yeah, we can look at some projections through 2029 is what I would suggest, just because it models the state budget.
So you'd be looking at 26 and then how that fits into
4-year period, yeah.
the 4-year period, so we wouldn't get out of whack. Because when we sit here, we're always scared. Next year it's gonna be, we stay at 2%. Next year it's gonna be 8, but we would have to be, we would have a good idea.
Okay, human resources announcement, are in front of you. There's no questions on them. I would, for that, community development update, Tina sent us out her update last night, so you guys go through that on your own. I would go to commissioner reports. We didn't do commissioner reports last time, so constraint. So we could go back to the 15th of July to today. Right? Oh, that'd be back to the first thing. Let's not go back there. But we're already going back 3 weeks. Yeah, let's just go to the 15th. Who wants to start? Commissioner Milbrook?
I can start. Tuesday the 15th, we had work session and a board meeting. On Wednesday, I opted out of the EDA and went to the mandated OSHA training. The 19th, I had coffee with the commissioner. 21st, I had neighborhood service center. 21st was RAC and EMS meeting. On the 25th, I attended Sherry Drummond's retirement. 26th was coffee with the commissioner. And I didn't have anything until last night. I had Arts Council meeting. I'm missing something. No, I was off all last week. Yeah, I just had Arts Council meeting last night today.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Morgan?
Tuesday the 15th, at a work session, 9:30 board. Wednesday, the 23rd was the scanner install. From retirement on the 25th. 28th was 1 p.m. with Widseth here in the East Annex. 29th was scanner training at 11 a.m. Yesterday, I met with Michael and Commissioner Christopherson, Michael's office. 1 p.m. We had Widseth Teams meeting. And that brings us to today.
Rosie?
You said 15th, right? Yes. Yeah, the 9:30 board, 8 a.m. work session. Then the 16th was EDA. Then I did run into, I think it was that night I ran into a gentleman that lives out north of town. And he was concerned about the airport and on the weekends with with all the planes flying. I guess some of them get kind of loud, but he has a business out there. That he's had some frustrations with the airport as far as noise and with his customers and stuff like that. So, but he was just placing to me his concerns, and so
It's owned by the city.
yeah. Yeah.
He talking about the spray plane?
No, it wasn't about the spray planes. No.
It's been a lot of recreational flying.
Yeah, that's all recreational. Yeah. So, interesting conversation. The 22nd was joint county ditch 8 in Overly. The 24th, I did have a couple of people. I talked to a couple of people about Courthouse Park and what's been going on out there and what our plans are. Maybe we could touch shortly on that if we have time. session sometime in the next future.
Well, it was tabled to the 19th.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
So it'll come back to 19th.
You only had a couple people? I had quite a few.
I'll just leave it at it.
The facilities budget presentation is also 19, so we'll get into it more.
And then the Grumman retirement, HRC on the 28th. E and Z on August 1st. That brings us to today.
All right, on the 15th, work session and board meeting, and then that afternoon, Wind Prairie Joint Powers Board meeting over in Steele County. On the 16th, I did the AMC Understanding Federal Changes webinar. That was an interesting chance to learn about how federal changes are going to roll out, timing and whatnot. Then I spent a little time up at the cabin, and that was fun. Not a cabin I own, just up at the lake with the family. That was awesome. Let me see. On the 21st, I had a virtual meeting with SHAC leadership and MDH, and then made my way up to Bloomington for a joint leadership team, MDH, local public health, and SHAC. On the 22nd, I had Wind Prairie Finance Committee meeting at 9:30 over in Steele County. Then I came back from Waseca and met with John Hansen and that group working on the app, the Discover Waseca app, that historical app that the county is now being responsible for. I don't know what we want to call that. Do we have a name for it?
Explore Waseca County.
Explore Waseca County. Explore Waseca County. It was an interesting conversation. I pulled Beth into that conversation because they were starting to put together graphics for the app. And I know that we need consistent branding across the county, and she's been responsible largely for trying to move us that direction. So I've appreciated that she's been in on that conversation and starting to work on that. Then I headed back up north because on the 23rd and 24th, I got to take part in tribal state relations training that is put on by the state of Minnesota. It gets done 11 times a year, one time a year. Each tribe hosts that training. We happen to be on the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe reservation getting that training. It was fascinating and a great chance to learn. And it's particularly applicable to the work that I'm involved in SHAC. But the fact is, every county in the state has Native people living in it, whether they have a tribe or not. And how they sit as dual citizens in our county, it really helps to understand that. So it was fascinating training. If you get a chance to do it, do it. Man, you learn a lot. Then, that was the 23rd and 24th. Got back on the 25th. One Watershed, One Plan, Lisa River Policy Committee meeting. We didn't get a quorum, which was super frustrating. But we're going to meet again virtually. There was a couple action items that we need to get done. We had good discussions. Staff was well prepared. So that was good. 28th, we had a meeting on the possible building development. That was another step forward in looking at how that intuitive process and how it's going to come together. 29th, I had all to myself. The 30th, I did the defensive driving and the annual safety training. The 31st was Shack Coffee Conversation and Consideration, Artificial Intelligence and Public Health. Very interesting. Then at 11 o'clock, another virtual meeting, Moving Waseca Forward, that forward project that is part of workforce development and economic development. That is coming right along. I know Commissioner Hargett. I know we're going to meet again here in September. If we're particularly talking about what we have in place for career development and how it feeds the local economy. Interestingly enough, they did all kinds of analysis on it using the state data. And what doesn't show up as a workforce need for Waseca County is in agriculture. And part of that has to do with how job statistics get reported to the state. Because if you look at, who's involved in agriculture, how many people are doing it full time and that's their primary work. It does not speak to the seasonal effect. How many extra people do we need in the spring? How many extra people do we need in the fall? It was very interesting. And it's important that we be in those conversations because property tax wise, 53% of the property tax right now is coming in from ag. So we got to make sure that we're understanding that. Public health conversation with Sarah that afternoon, getting caught up. On the 1st, we had labor committee in the morning. And then in the afternoon, I did an interview with RAP Strategies. They are collecting information from local leaders about energy infrastructure development, particularly high volume transmission lines and those kinds of things. And we know that one of those projects will either go north or go straight through us. So it was interesting to visit and to hear kind of what they're collecting. Yesterday, LPHA Shack Data Modernization Work Group. And then the Opioid Advisory Council meeting, and then the building committee, another meeting with Waseca yesterday. And here we are today.
Okay, thank you. As far as myself, back in the 15th, I was also at the Men Prairie Joint Powers Board. 16th, I did sit in on that Understanding Federal SNAP. And the 22nd, I was down in Freeborn County on JD 8 improvement project. 23rd, I had a pre-council with Leota Lynn for the South Country Health Alliance Joint Powers Board. We get together a week prior, go over the agenda. That night we had HRA Mankato, and
Yes.
we also did not have a quorum. So that threw us off. So now that's why we got that virtual tomorrow afternoon.
I'm ready to attend that.
Yeah,
Hopefully we get a quorum.
yeah. I just got a text from her. But I did too. Make sure we have a quorum.
Yeah.
Okay, then on the 31st was the South Country Health Alliance Joint Powers Board. We had a presentation from one of our community paybacks. We give money to that Let's Smile.
Oh, okay, yes.
That goes around to the schools.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys know Holly Jorgensen. Well, she heads that up, or she started it. And you want to talk about a gal with a lot of energy. He gave quite a presentation, and she's very into her work, and that's good. We need community people like that. August 1st, Planning and Zoning Subcommittee. Here, same day we had Labor Committee. And then that afternoon, I had a bird show with Sparrow Executive Board. That was just a bird show with them. August 4th, yesterday, Min Prairie Policy Committee. And then I met with Michael and Commissioner Hargett in the morning, 8:45. So, that brings us to today. So that's it for me. Is there anything else that should come before the board?
Just the one I mentioned tonight is Waseca's National Night Out at the park.
What is that?
Goes from 5 to 7. You want to go swim and bring your swim trunks? Or let you swim?
I was gonna say, do I gotta bring trunks or do you want? Okay.
I could mention that Janesville's is on Thursday night and they are doing it in conjunction with Music in the Park, so they have a small band shell on Veterans Memorial Park, and twice a month they have it. So now that's the big event, everybody's gonna be there. They get the food trucks and the whole shebang. It's pretty fun.
Just a reminder, the health commissioners meeting on August 20th as well from Min Prairie. If that's not on your radar, so again, 9 o'clock. Hope you.
Definitely. So that'll be Wednesday after our next meeting.
Yeah, you have an invite. You should have an invite in here.
Should have.
It's on your radar.
Go ahead. Yep, one more. Make it good.
Okay, it's about food though.
Ooh.
Next meeting, the 19th, is our picnic.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
You got,
Bring an apron.
bring an apron,
Okay.
you got the grill master
Down there.
is down there.
Yep.
Sweet.
Breakfast.
Okay, cool.
Okay. All right, I'd look for a motion to go. Second. All in favor, say aye.
How I get that? I had to get that last question.
The 24th, and then they submitted to NPIA for. So the timing is good. Who knows? I don't know if we're gonna get anything out of it, but they're sitting on 850